And he loads up a long one down the sideline, single coverage. Great reaction by Snead, but it's waved off incomplete on the coverage from Keandre Thomas. Now let's see. Oh, they do say catch.
It's a completed pass.
It's a completion for Snead.
Welcome to SicEm365 Radio.
Flagler reaching in with the steal, and now Mitchell gets around Moody.
And Meyer can drill it.
He does!
Goodness.
Off the bench, Matthew Meyer with the three.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Prescott going end zone. It's caught for the touchdown. Dalton Schultz.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Well, no, I'm just going to be honest. I mean, I about wrecked my truck when Jerry called me. I was driving through a rainstorm, but once I got back on the road, I'm all in. So I'm excited about it.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. SicEm365 Radio. Across the numerous ways that we can broadcast to you, whether it is our audio or the video in this beautiful state-of-the-art studio, 101 Elm and MLK. Today, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. I'm here kind of in a way. I'm not so sure what has been more annoying. A root canal that I had that went, it was okay. Dr. Steve Childress at Stonewood Dental is amazing. Or having to try to piece things together with, of course, the story that popped yesterday. And we're going to have numerous guests. Paul and Craig have been able to piece together a guest list with many people trying to get their opinion about Texas and Oklahoma, the SEC, what it means, what are the options. Craig wrote an article in the premium section about this is what it is, what could this mean, and we'll take your feedback on that as well today at 254-339-1122. So I'll be the ultimate, I hope, traffic cop today, not talk too much, which will please some of you. And so, guys, the next morning, you slept on it. What do you think?
I mean, it's to me, it's at this point we need to accept that it's all over but the shouting. I mean, with Texas and OU saying that they're not going to renew the media deal, a last minute pitch by A&M to get 10 other teams with them, which seems really hard. The more I thought about it, look, the NCAA is changing, and when Mark Emmert said that maybe the best thing is a decentralized NCAA. Why do people have to cling to their old conferences anymore? Why don't they just go and I'm not I think it's still bad what Texas know you're doing, and it's going to make it really hard for the remaining 8 schools. But I understand it in a different way now. I don't like it all that much, but I don't think there's any knock to the SEC to do it. I mean, other than A&M being pissed off, and the Big 12 is just screwed.
Yeah, no, the Big 12's dead. I mean, is what it is. The Big 12's not going to exist after this. If they try to cling on to a name, do the whole 10 teams, let's fill 2 spots, call it the Big 12, and there's still only 10 teams. I think that would just be silly. I think the brand needs to just die at this point. It was on rocky waters. It was on a life raft for a while as it was. And, last week was oddly enough just kind of calm and quiet. And that was the definition last week, Big 12 Media Days, of the calm before the storm. And yet no one happened to know it at the time outside of those in Austin and Norman who were in on what was actually going on behind the scenes. So, yeah, I mean, the Big 12 is dead. This leaves 8 teams now kind of looking around the room and wondering what the heck their future looks like. And I would love to be able to tell people that I know what it looks like, but quite frankly, right now, no one does. Yeah. I saw, Billy Liucci, who's, I think, also coming to grips with the fact that there's not really anything A&M can do to stop this. Because when you look at it, I mean, if you're the SEC teams, yes, it's going to be harder to recruit somewhat. Yes, there's going to be this issue that arises. Yes, Texas' ego could get involved, all these things. But when you really boil it down to the beneficial aspects of it, why would you want to block it if you're the SEC? I mean, adding 2 teams the caliber of Oklahoma and Texas to your already loaded lineup, I mean, you basically have blocked off the entire southwest part of the country, or southeast part of the country is what you've done, with the exceptions here and there of a Florida State or a Miami or someone like that. So it makes all the sense in the world for the conference. It makes all the sense in the world for the 2 schools involved. And it sucks for the other 8 schools. So very interested in seeing how they react to this. I saw a tweet a second ago. Somebody said that, TCU and Baylor and Texas Tech officials are trying to get involved at the government level to, make something happen. But I don't think that's happening either. I think that's just, an attempt that's going to go, not very far, basically.
Well, we don't have Ann Richards and Bob Bullock anymore.
Yeah, that's a different scenario.
And the other thing is the precedent was set when A&M left for the SEC, and the Aggie governor at the time was like, go ahead, great news. So I don't know where Greg Abbott stands on this. I don't particularly care, but because I don't think he's going to get involved. I think the precedent was set with Rick Perry, and Greg Abbott and he are pretty aligned when it comes to those kind of issues politically. So I would think that he doesn't get involved in it. I do think this, and this might be me pumping sunshine. Thinking of things in the way the last realignment went, where the Pac-12 kind of thumbed their nose at some teams. I think maybe, I don't know. They still might try to do it because, that's run out of the West Coast and nothing makes sense out there either. But they're not in a position where they can be like, well, your school believes in this or we don't like this. Because, look, if you want to get to 16, your options are limited as far as teams that are power conference schools. Otherwise, you're adding non-power 5s to it.
I've seen a lot of talk. And, again, I haven't spent a lot of time being able, other than just be able to see some of their responses and read some of that on SicEm365 as well on the message board, the premium section. A lot of talk about, well, you grab this team and you grab that team. You know what that is? That's just grabbing ass is what it is. It's just grabbing whoever might be available, whether it's Cincinnati or Memphis or UCF and whatever. But that doesn't really bring anything to the table. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. I've come to realization when the story came out, I saw Joe Trahan, Channel 8. By the way, congratulations to him because he'll take over at Channel 8 when Dale Hansen leaves in early September and retires, is that, they're not going to Texas and Oklahoma, according to the report, are going to send a note to the Big 12 and say, hey, we're not going to be a part of the next TV deal. That's 2025. There are a lot of ramifications when it comes to grant of rights and all this. What I think if you're Baylor and Iowa State or your Kansas State and your TCU and Texas Tech and all the others is you start having some serious talks, look in the mirror. Are you going to be a part of the Power 5 in some way or not? And to me, grabbing just teams because they're out there, they may not want to come here in the first place because without Texas and Oklahoma, with all due respect to everybody else, including Baylor, whatever, really what is the value? That you're a part of a conference and you're not a part of a Power 5 now? I don't know what's going to happen. Big 12 is supposed to have a meeting tonight at 5 o'clock to discuss Oklahoma and Texas. And I'm going to say this, and this may not be fair. I think some of you will love it, and some of you will say that's a little harsh. When we had Bob Bowlesby on last week, and he was right there in front of us, like right there, and some of the tech, and Craig, you brought this up in your article, was that the college football playoff pushed everything back. And that basically as far as realignment or whatever, he has to be taking some heat or has to have not slept last night knowing that a conference, when he said that a week ago, is about to completely fall apart, if not already. He's the captain of the ship.
2 schools conspired behind everyone's back, including his, to leave, and he was caught off guard. No one was caught, like, Dan Beebe couldn't make the argument he was caught off guard the last time around. Nobody was negotiating in private. It was very public, people's disgust with what was going on. And so I think Bob Bowlesby's going to be taking a lot of heat, but again, if nobody tells him, what's he supposed to do? And then, especially if you're saying one thing and doing another, which clearly Texas and OU were, to give him that feeling. Also, I'll say this: stop trying to fill in the Big 12.
Yeah,
stop trying to fill it in.
Die.
Just let it die. What you should be worried about is where can your team go?
Yeah, that's all that matters right now. And I wouldn't even be so worried about remaining buddy-buddy with the schools that are remaining. I know that. you just have to be very smart strategically. Do you need to pair up with Texas Tech and TCU and form a pact, which you probably should sign a contract over, seeing as how we now see that without it in writing, it doesn't really matter. Words don't matter at all, thanks to Texas and Oklahoma. So, you don't want to go just on word of mouth and just trust people, because trust has clearly been broken. So, I don't know what you do. All I know is Mack Rhodes was on vacation trying to enjoy himself, and now that is no longer the case because this massive bombshell has dropped. And again, I get it from UT and OU's perspective. I mean, it's not their job to worry about the other 8 schools. Do I think what they did was, very underhanded and slimy? Yeah, I mean, it was, and I don't think there's an argument that it wasn't, because it was behind-the-scenes talk when the organization is saying one thing and 2 members are clearly doing something behind the scenes that's completely against that message. That's underhanded, but that's politics, and that's why these 2 schools are who they are in many ways. They have that kind of sway, that stroke, that power, and they make power moves. And so this is a major move for both. But the other 8, I mean, I think they need to see the writing on the wall, let this conference die. If it, reanimates as something else under a new name, and they just so happen to have all those schools still together and there's another 4 or 5 that join them, so be it. But as far as the Big 12 itself, let it die. Okay. I mean, it's been hanging on for far too long.
Yeah, and it did seem as if it had turned the corner, but now, you're right, that's just a matter of time. Now, you know what? Last night or yesterday afternoon and then yesterday evening, for as long as I monitored it, you know what it reminds me of? When all the talk with fans of the SEC teams or Texas or Oklahoma or other schools, you know what it reminds me of? Like a boys' night out where everybody drinks too much and they start comparing notes about who has what, done what, who is bigger, who is thicker, who is wider. You know what I mean? It's like everybody, I get it. And I know that a lot of times, because it's social media, maybe shouldn't get caught up in it, but I sat there and I kind of just monitored and I watched it. It is like, I'm bigger than you, but yes, I've had more. It really kind of was almost filthy.
Well,
and the arrogance, not, by the way, when I say that, a lot of people, Texas. No, from a lot of people about who's more important or whatever. And really, in the end, maybe that is important because that's why Texas and Oklahoma can do this, and that's fine. They could have done this before.
This is still kind of like, there's one way to look at this. If you're Texas, this is admitting that you're maybe don't swing as big a stick as you thought you did.
Well, if you're Oklahoma, if you're as big a brand nationally as you think, why do you need Texas? And if you're Texas and you have that, I know it's 2 teams that make 16. I get that. I'm not just, I'm asking the question.
Well,
why can't you guys survive without each other? And why do you have to have someone tag along with you? But then again, I understand why, because of the numbers.
Yeah, well, there's the numbers. There's also the fact that Texas isn't getting in without Oklahoma, in my opinion. I think it's the package deal. It's not we add Texas and then we're at 15 and then you scramble to find just some team like, okay, how do we fill this 16th spot? Cincinnati, like, well, they wouldn't fit in. This is all about the 2. It's not about the one in either case. It's about the package, not the individual packages, and that's why it worked. And those 2 schools for the longest time have been the power brokers. We know that. All the other schools have just sat by because they know that they can't compete they're not going to reach that level, and so they kind of had to just be at the mercy. And the problem with being at the mercy of it and never not being at the mercy is that you put yourself in this position where you are completely left vulnerable because 2 other schools who never really cared about you in the first place went and did what was best for them. And again, I don't blame them for that. But it was a package deal in my opinion, because if it was just Texas, then A&M would, I think, have a much bigger argument to say, like, wait a second, guys, like, why them? But if it's Texas and Oklahoma, and you look at how regionally you can divide that up, and you look at the nice round 16 number, and you look at, how much grass you now have under ownership across the Southeast, that's too much to pass up. If it was just Texas, I think that maybe it would still get done, but I think having Oklahoma paired up made it just a no-brainer move.
All right, we're going to have Brent on here momentarily. We'll take a call and a couple other things. Break.
No, Brent is tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
Brent is tomorrow.
Right, okay. We do have Ross Dellinger, who's great. what he does with SI.com. He'll be a part of it at 5:30 today. Mickey up from Cowboys camp at 4:30. Cedric Golden coming up here in just a minute.
Yeah, we'll take Matt in D.C. in a second. I'll tell you guys this. I had this thought last night before that we're doing the TV deal. Like, what if this was just Texas's ploy to get Oklahoma out so then they could win conference championship? Like,
it was funny.
A&M doesn't let us. Okay, sorry, bye, Oklahoma.
Yeah. It was funny, and this isn't UT's fault, but ESPN put up a graphic talking about this news, and they had this big graphic. It said 17 Big 12 championships. Well, 14 of those are Oklahoma's, like 14 of the 17. So it's just kind of funny, and it's not their fault, but that was ESPN trying to, make the big, 17 championships. But, I've seen, I saw an Iowa State post a second ago from one of their fan sites. A lot of people are upset, as you can imagine, because it's not just Baylor, it's also TCU, it's Iowa State. Oklahoma State feels very vulnerable right now.
They got Oklahoma State and maybe even Texas Tech, because they've been able to hook into that UT bloodline a little bit too. The last time when all this was going on, remember, they kind of were under that umbrella. Yeah, I'm going to put this up on Twitter, and Craig, go ahead. Is it which of the remaining 8 teams maybe feels the most slighted? The one that probably hurts today more than anybody else? I think a lot of them do.
I don't know if slighted is the right word necessarily, but the one that is, perhaps, I don't know. I don't know that's because I don't think they got slighted really in this way, at least the way that I'm thinking of the word. Screwed would be the better word, quite frankly. But a lot of schools feel screwed right now. Yeah, I mean, you think Oklahoma State would be okay, and they probably will be, but it doesn't take long or many messages to read that, they're like, oh, God, now what? Because now we don't have Oklahoma. That automatic just will tag along or whatever. That door's closed now. That door's completely closed. The Sooners are, putting cement around the edges of it right now. So, yeah, they're scrambling. Baylor's scrambling. TCU's scrambling. Tech is scrambling. West Virginia probably feels okay that they'll get into the ACC or something like that. But, yeah, there's 8 teams that have no idea what the future looks like. And just a week ago, they thought the future for at least the foreseeable next few years was pretty much written in stone. But to tell you how some teams are taking this, and there's so many tweets we could go over from every fan base, but this was from an Iowa State fan I just happened to see, because they're obviously a school. They're all excited about this upcoming football season, and, now there's all this. But I think it was Wide Right, Natty Light or something like that, said Texas is a rich kid of Instagram that asked for a Ferrari for Christmas, but their parents get them a Mercedes instead, so they have a tantrum, then burn their house down and frame their parents for arson. So that's kind of how Iowa State fan takes it. There's similar comments from every other fan base. Bottom line is this. OU and Texas are not throwing a life raft. They're not going to reach their hands back and grab, 1 or 2 and bring them along with them. That door's closed. So these 8 schools, there's some big decisions to be made.
Lots and lots of decisions.
Yeah. Matt in D.C., you're on Sic'em365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call today. I always thought this possibly could happen, but I didn't think it was going to happen today. I thought it was going to happen maybe at the end of the TV contracts. But that being said, after sleeping over it and looking back on everything, what I've come to the conclusion is in Mac I trust. With all the stuff he's had to handle with us, even though he's on vacation, and I kind of think they waited till he was on vacation to announce this, because I think if he was in Texas right now, he'd be rolling over heads right now. But anyway, hey, the way I see it, the best thing to do, hey, if they're going to go, let them go. And if the 8 teams can somehow maybe, if we match up with maybe the AAC or something, let's get a merger going possibly. If not, let's try to get the ACC. But we got to do what's best for Baylor. We need to be doing the back channeling. We need to be using our law firm to contact their law firm, exactly what Texas and OU did, according to Paul Feinbaum. And this all started when we asked for a new TV deal, and once ESPN turned us down, that's when the back channeling started. So they left us behind. So we got to go, and we got to back channel, do what's best for Baylor. And, hey, let's get if we can get in the ACC, awesome. AAC, let's do what says, keep winning. We're a very attractive basketball school right now, and I'll just leave it. The last thing I'm going to say is be careful what you wish for in Texas, because 6-6 is not going to be too fun. And with Oklahoma, hey, you've been having fun driving down to Dallas every year, but now what's it going to be like when you're maybe flying to Atlanta every otother 5 years and you're going 8-4, 93 to the Liberty Bowl and Gator Bowl? So enjoy what you got, because there ain't no off weeks now in the SEC. So enjoy your 8-4 because that's what's coming. Thank you all.
Matt, thanks for your call. Appreciate your call from D.C. We'll have some of the comments on our text line, 254-339-1122, and then also on YouTube as well.
It's been really interesting to see from certain Texas and OU fans is, I've seen that point brought up by others who say, well, have fun, losing 4 games a year and, this and that, are not competing for conference championships. And that very well may be the case, but I've seen plenty of replies that say, we don't care. Like, it's not even about I've seen the term, this is not about the wins many times now since last night. This is about the money. And we all know that the main driving factor in this is money. That's bottom line. That's not negotiable. That is the main reason. But yeah, TV rights and all the other stuff that comes with that, the prestige and the security. The SEC is never going to fold. It is the mini NFL now at this point. Some people have been wanting that for a long time. I personally haven't. Yeah, the games are going to be great, but after about a season, it's just going to be normal. It's not going to be like what it feels like right now when we're thinking about all the possibilities. I think it'll be cool. I also think it is, a dent to just the whole college football landscape. I think it's a complete shift in what we looked at the sport as, and NIL was pushing that along anyways and kind of changing the look of it. But I think this completely changes it, and it's not going to be the same old college football that we knew and loved. And OU and Texas decided that, hey, the landscape's changing, and we're going to get on the safest boat possible. And they secured themselves. And now others need to find that same security, and it's going to be tough to do. But I do think Baylor has some things working for it. As I wrote in my article, I think there's several things working against them. And really it's just going to depend on what's available. Like, does the AAC change? Do some of their teams leave? Does the ACC add teams? Does the Pac-12 add teams? Like, do we know they add teams? If they do, even then there might not be room. So it's hard to tell right now, but you just got to hope there's an availability somewhere.
Yeah, I think the other thing you got to consider is, like, Notre Dame could throw a whole wrench in this because the ACC is already at 14, and they're at 15 if you count Notre Dame and everything but football. So if Notre Dame just decides, like, all right, it's time, the writing's on the wall.
I can't. Of course, I never saw a lot of things in college.
I mean, the rules are different today.
They still have, no matter what, they can do whatever they want in the ACC in football, right? Mm-hmm. Football. Or was last year only?
Yeah, last year only.
Okay, they're independent. They're still very powerful. They're a religious school, unlike TCU and Baylor or maybe 2 or 3 others that have amazing national clout. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they would give up that independent. And by the way, that is at least a slight chance if the SEC, let's say, changes their mind on the acceptance of those 2. Texas and Oklahoma will be flying independent for a while, and I think both of them probably can for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that ultimately, I do think ultimately Notre Dame's going to do it's going to be easier because, again, they jumped in it last year and damn near won the thing. If not for you having to play Clemson twice, they do. So they're in a good position right now football-wise. Notre Dame is better than they have been in a long time. And are they national championship good? No, but they're right on the cusp, so – might as well jump into a conference. So then that really there's just one spot in that conference if your 16's the number.
Well, here's the other thing that people aren't considering, or maybe they are. I haven't looked at every tweet imaginable, but okay, let's say that the remaining 4 conferences are going to expand to 16, right? So the SEC would be complete, and you'd add a couple schools everywhere else. But for example, TCU or Baylor, would Houston be more attractive to one of those conferences because of the big TV market? Mm-hmm. Even though they're not Power 5 right now, I could see, not an SMU, but I could see a Houston. If somebody's like, hey, we want Texas flair and we want Texas flavor in the big city market, that might be attractive to someone as opposed to a smaller private school like TCU, even with the Fort Worth factor, or a Baylor. I mean, that's where I start to really look at like what the major concerns could be. But again, I mean, we have no idea what these other conferences are going to do just yet. They're reacting to the news like we are, and I would have to imagine that some of them have had these backdoor talks about what this was all going to look like once that ball got rolling. Nobody expected the ball to start rolling yesterday, but it did. So now, brace up, and there's going to be a lot of politics, that's for sure, and a lot of hard work and a lot of big conversations behind the scenes. And, the dust is far from settling.
All right, we got some of you who are able to send us some of your scenarios. Coach Harp, Kansas schools and Iowa State to the Big Ten. Texas schools at Oklahoma State to the Pac-12. Again, I don't know what value any of those teams bring to a conference unless it's just a number, adding to a number of what you have. And that's just being real.
Well, Kansas adds basketball. We know that. I mean, that would make a ton of sense for the Big Ten. Now, you wouldn't want their football program or their baseball program or most of their other programs, but you would want that big, shiny basketball program that they have. I don't know what the pull is for K-State. I think they're in a similar boat to Baylor and TCU, and probably to Iowa State. I mean, does Iowa want Iowa State in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I thought about that this morning when I was sitting there. I was like, wait a minute. We hear about A&M wants to be the only team in the SEC in Texas, and I get that. I do. And or Florida, the only Florida's team in the state of Florida. I get that. Or others. But, Iowa's probably, I don't know if Iowa's going to go, yeah, come on in, because
I wouldn't.
They're a hellacious football team. Iowa State's trying to be, and they're on the edge of being one. And I say hellacious for Iowa. They're pretty darn consistent with what they do.
Yeah, I do feel, like A&M left. They had a clean divorce. They moved out. They didn't have kids to share. They just left. They left. And then 10 years later, the person they divorced said, we're moving next door. No, we're moving in.
Yeah,
like, you're not moving next door. We're moving in.
And I want to say this, and I think it makes sense. I know, Craig, but I see a lot of this. Texas A&M doesn't want Texas to be in the conference. Well, of course not. That's not them whining, bitching, moaning, or crying. Of course they wouldn't want to let somebody else in their footprint of the SEC. Who would? I mean, I see a lot of that, but again, that's kind of what I talked about. It's like a bunch of guys at night having too much to drink and starting to compare who all they've been with or whatever. A&M absolutely wants to be the only one. But if that doesn't work out, buckle up your big boy pants and do something about it.
Well, there's nothing I get tired of faster than A&M Texas trash talk, so I'm just glad that they could finally be together again. And actually, instead of an annual November article by every Texas media outlet talking about the game that isn't played anymore, we can finally stop those articles and they'll play again. And so I'm glad that storyline and that loose end will no longer be such a loose end. But there's no doubt in all of this, yes, there's going to be some teams that lose out. There's some teams that are not going to find themselves in nearly as nice of a position as they were in previously. But there's no doubt, as far as this story goes, that the one most affected immediately by this is Texas A&M. I mean, that's crushing news yesterday. And it's not because Texas is a threat to them as far as like on the field and all of that. Anybody who's saying, oh, well, they're scared to play, that's not it. I don't care what Justin Tucker did or whoever years ago in those old games. That's not it. It's the fact that they had all of the advantages built up over the last few years that are now suddenly completely wiped out. Oh, you're in the SEC? Well, so is Oklahoma and Texas. Because it's not just Texas. It's also Oklahoma. Like, Oklahoma regularly kicked their butts in football.
I think they beat them twice.
Yeah, Oklahoma gave them perhaps the most embarrassing loss that Aggie football's had in like the last 50 years.
Outside of the Alabama game with Kenny Hill, yes, you're right.
Yeah. And so that's not just Texas coming in and all of a sudden this land you had thought you had bought up parcel by parcel, all of a sudden there's some Sooners coming in, like legit, and some land thieves rolling in. But yeah, Texas is enough of a threat because your advantages are now equalized within the state, but that neighbor to the north, they're going to cause you problems too because they're coming after the exact same recruits, and you're going to face them year in and year out. And so it's a double whammy because those two schools have been your biggest competitors. I know LSU most recently and maybe Arkansas to a lesser extent, but those are the two that have given you the most fits historically, and now here they come knocking on the front door. Surprise!
But there's plenty of elite talent to go around, and now just you have a better story to tell. But yeah, I would, if I'm A&M yesterday, I got heartburn. There's not a Prilosec in the world that would probably affect that unless eventually this doesn't happen.
All
Paul?
Right. T-Rex, real quick, we got to go to Cedric Golden. You're on SicEm365 Radio.
Hey, guys. Great day. It's almost the weekend. One more day. And then we can all drink and forget about this until Monday. I just want to say one thing. I think this is a great opportunity for Baylor to prove that in the world of college sports, you can, if you're willing to, control your own destiny. Let's make ourselves an attractive-looking product. We got this season. I think if OU and UT leave, that's finalized by September 1st. Who cares? The other conferences got all season to figure out who they want to take, right? So how do you make yourself the most attractive product out of the 8 remaining teams? You win the Big 12. And why not on their way out? Let's send OU and UT a sending, a going away party. I'll bring the cake. Y'all bring the forks. Craig, if you can bring the plates, Paul, you get the napkins. Smokey, I'll just hope that I never sit around at night, talking about who we've been with. But you can bring some other utensils or something to this going away party. We got one in October and we got one in November. That's the best thing we can do. Let's just whoop their ass when they come to Waco, and the whole time as the clock's running down and that last 30 seconds are up by 15 and there's no way they can win, we just chant SEC and see you down the road. Control your own destiny. Let's win the Big 12. Let's be attractive, and let's go join another conference. Or keep the Big 12 and bring some teams in. But no matter how much we cry about it on Twitter and on the boards, there's nothing we can do about it.
Okay.
So let's just go win the conference.
T-Rex, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks for your call. And that's a great way to look at it. Just go do something about it.
I definitely had the thought last night that the Big 12 fan bases outside of Norman and Austin might be rooting more than ever for some other team, no matter who it is, to jump up and win the conference in football, and that would be somewhat poetic.
Here are we got Cedric next?
Yeah, we got to go.
Okay, all right. We'll come back with some of your YouTube comments because a lot of them are very good. And as they have, and were yesterday, most of them. Some of you can get a little bit out of line, but hell, so can we. All right, when we come back, Cedric Golden, Austin American Statesman, on the story about Texas, Oklahoma, the SEC, and more. And this is SicEm365 Radio. The other day, I ordered a Marco's Pizza on, Armstrong was back yesterday, so I did it before he came back because he would have devoured it because Armstrong does love Marco's Pizza. But who doesn't? Pizza lovers get it. It's an Italian quality pizza, fresh made dough, original sauce recipe from day one, 3 signature cheeses on every pizza, and take advantage of the great deals for delivery or carry out. Order online or with their app. Authentic Italian pizza. Over 1,000 stores in the country, but 3 of them here in the Waco area, if that's where you are, in China Spring, Belmead, and also in Woodway as well. Pizza lovers get it? Of course they do. 1-topping pizzas for $6.99 each, and they have this tasty sidekick right now with the fresh-baked cheesy bread. Also, curbside pickup available at select locations in the ones I mentioned, Belmead, China Spring, and Woodway. It's Marco's Pizza, Italian-American cuisine. First built in 1978. Pizza lovers get it.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium 1-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Make this the summer sales event is going on now at Allen Samuels. If you want sport and luxury, you gotta drive the new 2021 Chrysler 300S, where you can get up to $5,500 in total values or 0% for 72 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash and no payments for 90 days. Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by, let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is SicEm365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The SicEm365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, here we go. This 3 o'clock hour, Cedric Golden, longtime friend. And also a part of the Austin American-Statesman, covers University of Texas, of course, with Paul Craig, David Smoak, SicEm365 Radio. So the dust settles a little bit, Cedric, after yesterday about this time. What is it 100% all in, completely? Yes, this is a great idea in Austin, Texas?
You know, people are all over the place on this. Some of them think it's a great idea, but others think, why do you rock a boat that you're the captain of? I mean, do you really want to go over to the SEC and bump heads with LSU and Alabama and Aggie and all of those guys, or do you want to stay in the conference? That's the little conference that could, the Big 12 with Oklahoma. So it's a lot of varied opinions. I do believe that the Aggie fan base, by and large, would prefer to still be the only school from Texas in the SEC, and the AD Ross Bork said as much yesterday.
Cedric, with this move in Texas going over, I mean, they've always kind of run things in the Big 12. That's not how it works in the SEC. Are they ready to just, have an equal say like everyone else?
That's the biggest question I have coming out of this thing, guys, is number one, you wins all the football titles, and Kansas wins most of the basketball titles. But when it comes to the political cause and the merchandising, it all starts in Austin. That wouldn't be the case in the SEC. You got to deal with Tuscaloosa and Baton Rouge and Athens and College Station and Gainesville. So for me, is it a money grab? It feels that way. And anytime there's something this big that comes around, like it did 10 years ago with the realignment stories, it's always about the dollars. It's always about the Franklins. And so for me, I just think that it must be a really huge inducement, long term for the Longhorns and the Sooners to want to head that way. I know the SEC TV contract is with CBS and ESPN. It's a 10-year, $3 billion deal. I mean, that is just monstrous money. And I know the Texas and the other Big 12 schools receive payouts of $34 million each, while the SEC schools receive $43 million each. Now, if I'm the SEC guys and Texas calls, I'm answering that call. That is a giant in merchandising and fan interest and political clout and money. But in Texas, I'm like, you know what? I've only played in 2 championship games since 2005. What about moving to the SEC makes me think that that's going to improve? And to that, I would say it's not. So this feels like more of a money move than a winning move.
Cedric, have you missed Aggies fans? I'm sure you still get them in your mentions, but are you gearing up to get a lot more of them in your mentions?
Oh man, you can never have enough Aggie fans. I do Louis Bellina's show every Friday in College Station, so my mentions are always chock full of Aggie fans who always remind me that I said once upon a time that TCU was an upgrade over A&M in the Big 12. But what they don't remember is that A&M was going 7-5 every year when I said it, and TCU was winning Rose Bowls. So, they are having recency bias now. And you know what? The Aggies have done well over there. But let's all keep it real. They've lived off that SEC reputation for a while as well. They haven't really won. They haven't been in the CFP, and they haven't made as much noise as they could. It's easy to chant SEC, and Nick Saban's winning championships every year.
I think a lot of teams in the SEC do that. On occasion, somebody else might win it, like LSU or whoever, Auburn, or what is it, Paul, Florida. It's been a while for Florida, though, with Tebow and company and Urban Meyer. Cedric, I don't think this is even going to get to a point where politics can get this out of the whatever lane it's in. Do you?
No, because when you think of politics, and we're already hearing the stories, the Aggies want no part of A&M in the SEC. They got out of Texas's shadow, and they went and made a name for themselves. But you know what? If the Longhorns are going into the SEC, then once again the Aggies are going to be overshadowed. And the only way to change that is to kick Texas's butt in recruiting and on the football field. Politics is always going to have a big say in this. And when you're talking about politics, you're talking about money. And this is a big money move. Maybe the super conferences are coming. I could see an SEC where you have LSU, Texas, OU, Arkansas, A&M, the Mississippi schools, and Missouri in the West. And then in the East, you'd have Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, Vandy, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina. It all makes sense geographically, but this is all about money. Anytime you hear these kind of power brokers starting to put their heads together, it's about money. And the leaders that be aren't speaking on it, but I'll leave you guys with this. If you're driving a fire truck through town and you see smoke coming out of a building, do you stop and see what's smoking, or do you keep driving? Where there's smoke, there's always fire.
Cedric, how long do you think it would take Steve Sarkisian to be competitive in the SEC?
I don't know. I might be out of the business by then. I'm not sure, guys. I'm not sold on him as a great winner in the Big 12, so don't even get me started on the SEC. What has he ever proven as a head coach? I mean, he's a great assistant coach, and who wouldn't be a great assistant with St. Nick as the boss? So he's a great offensive mind, but it's not proven that he's going to be a big-time winner in the Big 12, not let alone the SEC. So that's one we might have to revisit down the road.
Cedric, you've seen a lot. This has been a year where we see COVID, the NIL, the Supreme Court decision, the transfer portal, all of the things that are going on. It could, like, every time we think it cannot get or bigger or story that's top of line, then we get the one yesterday with Oklahoma and Texas. It's just amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's out of nowhere, and it's real. I think it's a real possibility. And actually, guys, it's good to be talking about real sports and not talking about viruses and COVID, even though that isn't going away. It's just my fervent hope, whatever happens, that we'll see filled stadiums this fall. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Cedric, what do you think Bob Bowlesby's thinking right now?
He's thinking he shouldn't have given out his cell phone number, I think, because it's been ringing off the hook. I think Bob Bowlesby's done a really good job, and I talked to him at Jerry World during the deal, and you guys were up there at Media Days. I think he's done a really good job considering schools got their money. He came through a big-time crisis with COVID. Big 12 was the first to announce they were playing, and they got football in. So for me, that was a feather in his cap. And now he's looking at having to save his conference, because if those two leave, it's going to be tough to hold this thing together.
Yeah, and I'm of the opinion, and I know you'll focus mostly about Texas, but the Austin American-Statesman also writes about the state. is that, and Craig and Paul have discussed this to start the show, if this happens, or, when this happens, everybody left, they don't need to, piece something together. To me, they need to, let it die and go find and fend for themselves and do what's best for each specific school. What do you think?
I completely agree. I love the Big 12. I just love covering the conference. I love seeing you guys, the interstate rivalries. We all grew up with those. But if I'm Baylor or Oklahoma State or Texas Tech, I'm not looking at the Conference USA or any of that. I'm looking to jump onto the Big 10 or the Pac-12 or the ACC, one of those big conferences that are going to be running things in this new world order that we're going to be looking at if Texas and OU leaves. I think those smaller conferences might get eaten up when these big conferences decide. And if I'm Mark Emmert, this is not good news for me either, because there could come a day, guys, when these big super conferences goes, why do we need them? Why do we need to pay tax to the NCAA? Let's form our own organization. We got the best schools and the best coaches. We don't need the NCAA. We can do our own thing.
Thank you, Cedric. Appreciate your time. Cedric Golden, Austin American statesman with us, SicEm365 Radio. There's a lot of you that have given us some information, your opinions, a lot of it on our YouTube channel. Also on the text line and more. We'll take those, and also your calls continuing at 254-339-1122. There's one other story today, and I know that the SEC, Oklahoma, Texas, and how it affects Baylor. Quite frankly, at some point, what Texas and Oklahoma do, Baylor has to worry about what they're going to do. And yes, Mack Rhoades was kind of trying to decompress. As I think he even said sometimes, get off the grid after all of what was going on during the spring and all that. And then to get away. And then all of a sudden, just right after they had the SEC media days, which he didn't even get to attend because he was dealing with a Board of Regents, which is a deal that they have on Friday. But the NFL today came up with this little nugget. If, in fact, a game is postponed by requirement of government authorities or medical experts, if a team is the cause of a game not being played, it will be a forfeit, correct me if I'm wrong, and nobody would get a paycheck.
Yeah. And so this is part of their push to get people vaccinated. You can call this the Cole Beasley rule.
Well, because DeAndre Hopkins had something to say about this,
too. Well, I'm sure.
And,
who did say something was Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley's teammate, who just tweeted out, availability, accountability. So basically what he's saying is, get your shot.
So we wondered if this was going to cause any problems in teams, the whole COVID vaccination thing and all that. And, we're starting to see the first evidence that it might just do just that. But, yeah, Cole Beasley has been one of the more outspoken against the vaccine. He's gone back and forth with plenty of people on Twitter and whatnot. And, he's gotten some angry messages sent his way because he is anti-vax. And so that's interesting. I mean, that's definitely the NFL using what leverage they have to try and, push people in that direction. But clearly there's still going to be some Cole Beasley types that are going to refuse to do so. And if that refusal turns out to get some of the team infected and enough to the point where they can't play a game, well, then that loss will be squarely on their shoulders.
I know he gets most of the attention, and a lot of times it's because of the attention he gives himself. But DeAndre Hopkins, who's deleted this tweet since he put this up earlier this afternoon, in fact, real quickly, never thought I would say this, but being put in a position to hurt my team because I don't want to partake in the vaccine is making me question my future in the NFL.
Oh, shut up.
I mean, that is a pretty extreme reaction to this. Yes. You guys.
He's the best wide receiver in pro football, right?
Yes.
He's not Cole Beasley. I've never heard DeAndre Hopkins or anyone else. He's never been on my radar other than the fact he's a great player. But it's just him. See, here, and again, I got a vaccine, and I was as anti-vaccine as anybody. Mainly because it could affect my job, which I hate being forced into it because of that, but I got it. If I can go get it, and I'm anti-vaccine, and not because of anything political. It's just want to know more about things. Not that I'm a health expert. Then I don't see why the DeAndre Hopkins or Cole Beasley, if it could affect the team, won't eventually get their vaccine as well.
Well, because they're being selfish. I mean, and look, and I'm not saying that as a slight on these guys, but they're worrying about themselves. And I don't entirely fault that. I really don't want to get in vaccine talk because I've made my opinions very clear on that. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be some. I don't really have an opinion on this. Like, I think he should probably just go get the vaccine, but at the same time, I understand why he might be hesitant to do so. So yeah, this is what's to be expected.
Because there's a chance that if he doesn't get the vaccine, but he never gets COVID, then why is he a bad teammate?
I don't know.
Well, then it won't matter.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Then it won't matter.
There is that.
But we could do the
scenario.
what if game all day long.
I know, but that's just because he says that. Maybe that you can take that as he's being a bad teammate. Oh, just shut up. But maybe DeAndre Hopkins lives the rest of his life and never catches it without getting, whether he gets a vaccine.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, that's the thing is we have no idea. The bottom line is this: he's not going to get it. He's risking getting it. If something happens, then it'll be all at his feet. If something happens to the team, it will point back to him. If the team has an issue with it, I'm sure that they're on the phone with him right now.
Might be why he deleted the tweet.
But the point of the vaccine is not and I'll say this one more time. Vaccinations are not just for you. Whether I might not ever get polio, but I got vaccinated. It's for the world. It's for the rest of the people so that the viruses don't spread. That's why we do it.
It's
for
still spreading.
Community.
It's still spreading. It's still on occasion is spreading. Yes, the numbers are down, and thank God they are. All right, coming up, we'll get to your text messages, calls, 254-339-1122. This is SicEm365 Radio. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. 48-foot walk-in humidor with all of the great brands of cigars you can imagine. One of my favorites is the La Fontana or Rocky Patel Torpedo Edge. But maybe you like the great names like Cohiba or Macanudo or Ashton, Romeo and Julieta, and others because there are dozens of great brands of cigars inside their walk-in humidor. Don Humidor also has Carol Ashley and Cheyenne, who are always kind of right on the edge of making sure they're ahead of the curve when a new cigar might kind of pop. It might be something that's fast rising up the so-called Billboard charts. And if you like coffee beans and you like fresh ground coffee beans, they have different flavors of that. One of their more popular is Cowboy. And then also, of course, Vita Dreams, which if you have a gummy at night when you're trying to get yourself to go to sleep, it can help you fall asleep and save you 30, 45 minutes or longer, an hour, when it comes to the number of minutes you sleep rather than tossing and turning. That's an option to see if it works. It's Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa Drap Son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Payments for qualified buyer with 4,000 out at 2.9%. DTNL extra CD for details.
The road is waiting. Explore America and save during the summer savings event at Richard Carr. Savings like a 2015 Nissan Altima for $159 a month, a 2015 Infiniti QX60 for only $243 a month, or a 2015 Ford F-150 for only $393 a month. At Richard Carr, 100% credit approval is always the goal. Log on or get here now and save in the summer savings event at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more. Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. Are you a SicEm365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at SicEm365.com.
All right, back for this 3 o'clock hour very rapidly. This is from Raymond. Blame it on the NIL thing. I mean, just think about it. Buying of kids big money to go bigger programs. Y'all really think there's nothing fishy going on. That's why they're leaving recruiting and money. Well, we have said that many, many different times. And yes, it strengthens all of that if you're Oklahoma and also Texas if you get to the SEC. This is randomly on some of the YouTube comments from David. Still not sure it's a done deal for Texas to get in. A&M and Missouri are on record as saying no. That's at least being reported. Just takes 2 more teams to say no and they don't get it. A&M and Missouri have no power in the SEC. They do have a vote. Also, from Drum Corps Collection, A&M fan, Texas would ruin the SEC. There's some people that maybe agree with that. We don't know about that. It's my understanding that Texas initiated this move and not Oklahoma from Andrea. From Cliff, Texas could go alone. And he spelled go as in Cajun go. Let's see here. The reason Texas wants to move is because if you look at recruiting, they're losing out on a lot of players in the state of Texas to LSU, Alabama, and Texas A&M. From Brandon, I wouldn't be surprised if most of the SEC votes for both schools and join the SEC. The SEC doesn't usually say we had a majority vote, do they?
No, I don't think they would.
One of the things about them is that they're all in together. This is going to test that a little bit. 11-3 means that you could still invite them and accept them. 10-4, I guess no. What are Mississippi and Mississippi State thinking? Just more money?
I would think so. I don't know. I don't know why this would be necessarily bad for them or changes anything for them. What changes for Mississippi and Mississippi State?
You drop down even another notch or two when it comes
but
to
I mean,
that?
like, do you? I mean, would Vanderbilt be like, no, we're already.
No, Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt,
they got a different mindset.
Yeah.
They got a different mindset. But Mississippi and Mississippi State, I'm just looking at it as options. Does that not knock them down another notch or two?
Does Arkansas,
does that knock Arkansas down?
Arkansas not want them because of that? I mean, I don't know.
That's why it'll be interesting. But I have a feeling in the end that even A&M, if they do accept Texas and Oklahoma into the conference, you wonder if it's going to be they release it as it was unanimous, and then what does A&M do and say to their fan base if that's the case?
Yeah, I think they're just going to have to die. Like if it's 13-1, they'll be like, we voted against it.
One abstained?
Yeah, if they think that's going to go.
Someone just said Alabama is rebuilding. Not on this show, we didn't at all. From a few others, Bama's not scared of playing anyone. Bryce Young, Alabama's defense are going to lights out this year. Alabama's lights out every year. There was a time or two when they have been just average, but not since Nick Saban was there. They weren't like just killing everybody when Saban arrived. When they've had their pockets of inconsistency as well, like Oklahoma has and like Texas has had as well. It's going to be interesting to figure out. What do you think right now if you were to say, when we come back, and I know we have other guests to get to, what do you think, where does Baylor end up? What conference? Not with whom, but if it's a conference with somebody. 254-339-1122, SicEm365 Radio.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
Rattler, bootleg action, now in trouble again. Defensive call. Yeah, but there he is, through the corner, touchdown, Theo Weiss. That's Rattler doing Rattler-like things.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
So many different ways to look at this. I brought up those just randomly, the two schools in Mississippi. What do they think? Obviously, a lot of focus on what Texas, Oklahoma, what A&M, we've heard basically from them. What about LSU or Florida, Auburn, whoever? And we're trying to give you as many angles as possible, and some of you are giving your insight on that as well. Ryan Aber joins us, the Daily Oklahoma, the Oklahoman on SicEm365 Radio. Ryan, I know that once the story came out, that there was a lot of confirmation or a lot of, hey, this is a lot more smoke and fire than people realize this is true. What about it when you first heard what was happening?
Yeah, I was stunned by the timing of it and everything else. To see that break yesterday, and honestly wasn't in work mode, and certainly wasn't in college football mode at all in that time. But you snap out of it, start making phone calls, and trying to figure out what's real, what's not, what's happening, and it became very clear, very quickly, that there was certainly some fire behind the smoke, and there's something serious going on here. So it's certainly been an interesting last 25 hours or so at this point, 26. But there's going to be a lot more interesting stuff happen here over these next few weeks for sure, and potentially a whole lot longer than that.
What was the push for Oklahoma to decide to do that? I mean, I know money, but was there an instance that made them realize we're never going to make as much money as we want to here?
Oh, I think certainly the disparity between the SEC and the Big Ten to some extent, but certainly the SEC and the other conferences, the Big 12, and the Big 12 had been doing pretty well for itself, and OU specifically with the conference payouts that they've gotten, plus their own network that they've got set up there with Valley Sports Oklahoma that brings them a significant additional money. But I think just seeing what that disparity had become and how much the disparity could even grow if OU and Texas started joining the league, the number I've heard is around $60 million a year that each program could get in the SEC if it expands with those two teams. So the money is the biggest thing. And then I think also the change to the 12-team playoff, and not that that's official yet, but the way that we heard Bob Bowlesby speak about it a week ago certainly had an air of inevitability about it. And if that happens, the move to the SEC becomes a whole lot easier to sell to your coaches, to fans, and things like that, because the chances of making the playoff don't diminish much, if at all, making that move. And when you combine it with the money factor, all of that sort of makes it a no-brainer if you've got the opportunity.
Ryan, do you think that fans, and I know right now they're looking at dollar signs, even though that money doesn't go anywhere near them, they're looking at, prestige, they're looking at the fun road trips and all that, but do you think Texas and Oklahoma fans are going to be quick to grasp onto the reality of potentially, even though this has been the norm for Texas here lately, but losing 3-4 games a year, in the case of Oklahoma, not going out and winning the conference every year, do you think that all that other stuff trumps what might be lower expectations moving forward?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think the expectations will be lowered at all. I think the expectations at OU are going to remain: win the conference championship, win a national championship. But I think that among the majority of the fan base, there's going to be a realization that, hey, you're not going to be able to hang the banner every year, certainly the way that you've been able to do over the past 6. But when you do, you're in much better position. And even when you don't, you're in a solid position to be able to make the playoff anyway. So you could combine that with the money factor, with the fact that the SEC would be a major upgrade, and some other sports that OU holds dear. But the rest of the conference has generally struggled in, and I'm talking specifically about softball and women's gymnastics there, that, I think it's a whole lot easier sell than maybe it would appear on the surface.
What do you think Oklahoma State is thinking besides they were fooled, and secondly, I'm sure they're pretty hurt, bitter, whatever, but what is a legitimate option for them?
Well, the first part of that, what they're thinking is, let's get as much money out of OU and Texas as we can on their way out, and certainly that'll be a major factor in these negotiations that are almost certain to take place around the departure from the conference. Now, I think OSU's in a fairly good position compared to the rest of the other teams in the Big 12. I think they're going to have some options. Whether that's, stay grouped together with this bunch and try to make a move forward in something resembling a Power 5 conference. I think it'd be, I'm not sure if it'll still be considered a Power 5 at that point, or if it'll be sort of a Power, 4.5 or whatever the case may be. But they've also, the Pac-12, I think, is certainly going to be exploring if it makes sense to jump up and add a couple more teams as well. So I think Oklahoma State, with their success really across the board, the donation base that they have, even though Boone Pickens isn't still around, certainly his money has a lasting effect on this program. And some of the other things that they've got. I don't think Oklahoma State is going to be in just an awful position, but certainly they would rather either go with OU or, land in another very good spot that's not going to put them at as big of a disadvantage as it would seem on the surface.
Do you think it's better for the conference to try to stay together or for them to mercy kill it and go their separate ways?
I think sort of for each team, that answer is a little bit different. I think there are a couple of teams, Oklahoma State being one of them, I think Kansas being the other, that could have their more attractive options be elsewhere. Now, how do the other schools convince Oklahoma State and Kansas and those guys to band together and stick with those things? And I think they're going to have to be creative about it. And certainly if the conference is able to get a big chunk of money from OU and Texas on their way out the door, that, maybe they use that to try to entice the rest of the conference to stick together, because I think it's going to be hard to keep solidarity between that group of teams. But that's certainly going to be one of the more interesting things to watch is what happens with the other 8 if, in fact, OU and Texas go their own way.
Yeah, the grant of rights could be very expensive, but when you're getting ready to go make $60-70 million a year, that can be alleviated pretty quickly. Ryan, let's say this now, this pops. It's popped, but it happens. Like, even before football season begins, what's this season going to be like? Oklahoma is still the favorite over Iowa State and whoever else, and Texas is, who you'd never know with them. How angry is it going to be? Kind of, we've been through this about a decade or so ago.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of bitterness, and I think the bitterness that would be there in this break would be even greater than it was the last time around, just because I think it was fairly easy at that point to get on a path to get to the point of sticking together. I think it's a little bit more difficult this time around with the realities of what's going on and in not only the college football landscape, but in the digital rights and media rights landscape, as you talk about the transition from traditional TV deals to more inclusive ones that include streaming and things like that. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of bitterness, but I think it's in OU's and Texas' best interest to try to lessen that as much as they can, which is why I think there's going to be some pretty hardcore negotiations here to see to try to make this break the cleanest possible and not make it something where you've got lame duck teams for a couple of years or even longer than that until this TV deal ends following the 2024 football season.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your time. RYABER on Twitter. Ryan Aber with us with the Oklahoman on Oklahoma's side of view and how they're looking at this as well. I've seen a lot, and again, when I say that, then people may refer to social media, but on my timeline or whatever, I see this, well, they're not going to be able to win in the SEC. Oklahoma and Texas are two of the top winningest programs in college football history. Now, for UT, for about the last decade or so, they've had maybe one team that popped up, played for a Big 12 title, got beat by Oklahoma after beating them earlier in the year, won the Sugar Bowl. It's been a while. Oklahoma has been running the conference, we know. They've had their downtime, but most of that was back in the late 90s until Bob Stoops arrived. You don't get to that point because you back away from competition. You may not be quite as successful. It will be a tougher road, but I think those two schools are big enough, strong enough, and recruit enough to where they're willing to take that chance, and I think that right there is enticing as well.
Well, and I never I don't think about this in the my question about Texas isn't they're going to go in there and win, or they think they're going to go in there and win. I mean, they might, but and it's not going to be right away because that's a huge mountain to climb for anybody. What my thought is that they've always hoisted themselves up on the fact of being in charge and of being they're on their own, and joining the SEC means you're part of a commune now. It's democratic. Everybody's on equal footing. Now, granted, I'm sure some voices, Alabama's voice is probably louder than Vanderbilt's, but there's no, what Texas won't be able to do, and they won't get away with in the SEC like they have in the Big 12 is, say this stuff's going on at LSU right now, and Texas is mad because they've lost to LSU 5 times in a row. They won't be able to dump gasoline on the LSU fire and Greg Sankey not go to them and be like, hey, you need to shut the blank up.
Well, I think that is already, I'm sure that there are already people camping out in Baton Rouge for those stories, and, from launching from afar.
I think what everybody needs to realize is kind of like Steve Sarkisian. I think he got annoyed last week, at least reading his face a little bit. I was watching him during a couple of different questions, and he got asked of do you every new Texas head coach does, do you really know the expectations, this big daunting expectations? And he's like, yeah, I get it. I've been at USC, I've been at Washington. I think he was annoyed by the question, honestly, because it's duh, yeah, I know what I'm taking on. Now maybe Tom Herman was he flew a little differently. He was a different bird, but Steve Sarkisian's not a dumb guy. And so I look at it this way. Steve Sarkisian doesn't need to be asked the question about the expectations at Texas because he knows what those expectations are. That's why he's at Texas. I don't think you need to sit there and I asked this question of Ryan a second ago, so I'm guilty of it, but I think Texas knows that, yes, this might, and Oklahoma as well, this might mean more losses. This might, in the case of Oklahoma, mean less conference championships in football, but the playoff is still going to be about the same chance that you had, maybe slightly less. The money's going to be much larger. The security is going to be forever. Yeah. So they know exactly what they're getting into, but they look at the positives rather than you might not have a seat at the head of the table. You're just going to be one of 16, or you might not have, the pull to blast somebody in the conference like you did maybe at other times. And you won't have this, you won't have that, but they don't care because they see the money, the prestige, the security, and just like Sarkisian, yeah, he sees those challenges, but he also sees what overcoming those challenges will look like and what it's like to win at Texas and win titles at Texas. And so, you can point out all the little negatives there might be here and there, they won't have as much power, but I don't think they care. I think this move is too good to matter and let those types of things like the Longhorn Network. Sure, we'll get rid of the Longhorn Network because now they care about the teams they're involved with. They didn't give a damn about the Big 12, and they made it clear time after time after time. So, yeah, whereas that was, a nice little side piece for them, they'll make up that money in no time as a member of this giant SEC conference, and they'll throw it to the wayside because they see the other side and the greener pastures.
Well, and I think the thing that was hard for me yesterday to wrap my head around was you stood on these for so long. Like, this was the tenets of your institution. And by going to the SEC, you basically said after a decade, that didn't work. Yeah, it didn't work for us.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. We got to leave.
No, I mean, they, I wrote this article today where basically I was just kind of looking at, Baylor's not in a good position. I made no bones about that. And there's other schools that aren't in good positions either. But it was just kind of about sort of wrapping my head around all of the rumors and the talk and everything like that. And it's a scary new world out there. But, yeah, Texas is taking a big plunge. Oklahoma's taking a big plunge. But somebody made the comment of one part of your article was wrong because I said I don't blame Texas and Oklahoma for making the move. And this person said, well, one part of your article is incorrect. I do blame Texas. And yes, they are to blame along with Oklahoma. They clearly were the ones that initiated this move or at least moved it down the tracks. But if I'm just looking at it from a non-fan standpoint of not how it affects me personally, it's a no-brainer move. If Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State got the SEC invite today, you think they're even hesitating to say yes?
They'd have to clean their pants.
Oh, my God, yeah. They'd have to change their pants if they got that invite. So it makes all the sense in the world. Yes, you can blame Texas and blame Oklahoma for basically crushing the Big 12, and you can point out how Texas has done this not once but multiple times now with the end of conferences. But for them, trying to look at it with no bias, it's a no-brainer move, and you have to make it, and every other school would do the same. I don't like how they went about it, but that's college football and politics.
Yeah, I mean, look, it sucks for the Big 12. It sucks for those 8 teams that are going to have to figure things out. And it sucks to, that you're going to have argue, like Baylor, say Baylor tries to join the Pac-12, they're going to have discussions about why the rest of those schools shouldn't care that they're a religious school, or that it's okay to have different beliefs in the conference. Or they're going to have to, and there's going to be some backbiting among the schools that are trying to get places. Think about, what leg does Kansas State have to stand on?
None.
Oh, no, I told you, man. They're one of those schools that they're definitely in the purgatory.
Baylor has this. I was talking to a friend earlier today. What Texas and Oklahoma are their big budget movies. They're big budget movies. Everybody's seen them. Everybody knows. Baylor's like a really good independent movie that cool people have seen, I guess, in a way, or people have seen that are film buffs.
Nerds. Film nerds, yeah.
But they're having it like, oh, you haven't seen Swingers? You should. That's what they are. So they still have to sell what their good is. But then I thought about Kansas State. Bill Snyder made them good in football and all that, but their overall sports tradition is middle of the road. Kansas is the real footprint. If you want the Kansas City television market, then you get Kansas. Kansas State would have to go with them, but what do you do if you're Kansas State? And that's unfortunate for them.
Yeah, Iowa State's not that attractive when you think about it. Yes, they're good in football right now. They've had success in basketball, but they're not the most attractive. Kansas State's not the most attractive. Baylor's not the most attractive. TCU's not the most. The 8 teams remaining, Oklahoma State's, just off the top of my head, probably the best of the bunch, right? I think Tech will probably be fine, but yeah, there's 8 teams out there, 8 programs, 8 schools out there that they're all wondering the same thing. And you know what? They don't feel nearly as attractive as they felt yesterday because they all have their warts, so they all have their blemishes, and some will be able to put a little powder on and you won't know the difference, and they'll look good, and somebody will scoop up and grab them. But I don't think that's going to be the case for everybody unless they all stick together, and I don't know how you would make that work either. So it's very, very interesting.
There's so many scenarios, and nobody has the answers. But the bottom line is you better start, and that's why at 5 o'clock there's supposed to be and I've talked to a couple of people that said that there's going to be a conference call, and it was reported, but I also checked on that because you never know. All right, so do you remember what the conference mantra was? Not just one true champion that blew up in 14 when they had 2. Well, it depends on how you look at that. Do you remember what the year we're in at the Weston, I believe, at Galleria? Mm-hmm. Is that right? And that's the year Nebraska had left in June or July of 2010, right? Yes. The next year, Everyone was there. I remember, the Big 12 had backpacks and shirts and all that. What was the little saying?
I can't.
Okay, do you know one of the big banners this year at the AT&T Stadium? I don't know if you guys saw that. I said this during the Bob Bowlesby interview. The word unity. I mean, the Big 12 always has it's the opposite of a comic, right? I mean, it's like bad timing.
Oh, and
it was unity. It was, one true champion that's been a part of it for a while, and the unity. And here we are less than a week later.
Oh, the Big 12 has always been the fakest family on Facebook. They're the family that fights all the time and hates each other, but then Christmas rolls around and there's a picture of them all just smiling. Love you guys. I mean, that's what the Big 12 has always been. It's a family that doesn't like each other, but they're forced to get along because they're family. And,
you have no idea how much that hits home to me.
Right. I mean, but that's how I look at it. So, yeah.
They are. I mean, they are like that. But, and they haven't.
Do you know why you do that, though? You have to be that way when you're not that way.
Yeah, and you can't be what you're not, and that's the Big 12.
I'm trying to convince people you are.
The Big 12 from the very beginning was fraught with, look, they didn't want Baylor and Tech. They didn't want them. The governor and the lieutenant governor made it happen, so they had to take them. Then when they all get together and they get over that first little thing, the two biggest schools, two of the three biggest schools, when you're talking Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Texas had all kind of bureaucratic tete-a-tetes about what's wrong with this and what's wrong with that. And, we should have this many partial qualifiers, and Texas is like, we don't do that here. And Nebraska's like, well, we've been doing it for a long time. We've got a lot of pelts on the wall, so maybe you should do it our way. And Texas said, we don't care about your pelts. You're doing it our way.
We are, now that we're together, we now will do it our way.
Yeah. Where's the conference? The conference office is where? Oh, I know it was in Kansas City. Now we're bringing it to Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's just.
Hey, by the way, you could say how much clout Florida, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, whoever have. There's going to be some changes. There's going to be little subtle things that happen behind the scenes, because you know what? If you're the president of that school or whoever you are, you do whatever's best for you to maybe chip away to make you even more competitive.
I just had this thought, and I can't believe I didn't think of it till now. Florida and Texas are going to play each other in a game every so often, and I'm going to vomit all day.
All right.
Well, you just won't have to watch it. I mean, it'd probably be like on Amazon Prime or something.
The fact that it exists, it'll just be one of the things that I know. I'll be like,
didn't they play in baseball?
That was the worst. It was the worst.
That is one thing, though.
College World Series, yeah.
I just went on about, and we got to go here, but I went on about how Texas and Oklahoma know exactly what they're walking into. But, yeah, I mean, this is going to be the first time in a long time where they actually look around the room and they go, wow, they're on the same level as me. They're on the same level as me. They're higher than me. Alabama. They're on the same. I mean, this ain't walking around and two schools looking down their noses at the other 8. This is going to be two schools who are looking straight in the eyes of not quite the rest of the 14, but about 12 of the 14. And that's going to be a new way of life. And that's going to result in probably not winning as much as you maybe did at one point in time. But as Ryan Aber said, when you do win, it's going to be that much more special. And that's another reason why the move makes sense, as backdoor as it was. If you're a Texas or Oklahoma fan, you're glad your programs did that, I think, in some ways. They made that move. They finalized the future for you, and you're not one of those 8 fan bases that suddenly has no idea what the future looks like.
All right, here's some more. Let's get to these because a lot of you have put this up. Baylor is not Pac-12. They're going to end up stuck with Houston and SMU, and who knows, maybe that's the case. Not going to happen as far as TCU to the ACC, Big 10 or Pac-12. TCU has the DFW, huge population metro place. They don't carry that market. They don't. I mean, with all due respect to TCU.
No, they're in a big city.
Like Tulane does not carry New Orleans.
Right.
And Houston doesn't carry Houston or Rice. It's not the case.
Do you want tickets to any TCU game, but maybe one a year? You can
get them.
You can get them the day, like walking up.
Also, Pac-12 will not take religious schools. TCU, Brigham Young, and Baylor are a package somewhere, perhaps.
No,
well, people keep saying that, but I think the towns have to change, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about that in the article. That's not like the Pac-12 has not come out and said we will not affiliate, but that has been brought up in various avenues about that being problematic if you're a school like a Baylor. Now, TCU does not lean nearly as hardly into their Christian name as Baylor does.
In fact, they don't like to even be called Texas Christian
I'm
University
surprised
anymore.
they're still TCU, and I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying, like, they basically they don't act. You know what I mean? Like,
they are TCU, but they're not TCU.
Yeah, exactly. So, I look at it from Baylor's perspective, and I think what they've gone through in the past, that's a blemish, and that's something that I mentioned. But, maybe the Pac-12 hasn't outright said that, but you don't think that if Baylor comes to the table with their Baptist views and their conservative outlook, you don't think that's going to clash with Cal and Stanford and schools like that? Of course it will, and that's where I see it not being so much a Pac-12 mandate, but just I don't know that they would have the favor to join that group and bring that type of viewpoint into a group that has a very extremely opposite viewpoint in some ways.
Their argument should be in that case is, why should it matter?
Right, no, absolutely.
We're willing to be in your league and we disagree with you.
Right, no, I know.
But the Pac-12, with what the SEC's doing, the Big Ten, the ACC, and even the Pac-12 commissioner said it today, they're watching this. All of them are looking at their options. I don't know who those options, you hear about West Virginia to the ACC because, okay, they're West Virginia, and that's where most of the ACC is located on the East Coast. That doesn't mean that's the match. I never thought Maryland would be a part of the Big Ten. I never thought Rutgers would be a part of the Big Ten. And, again, those are certain markets they're trying to get as well. But some schools, no matter where they're located, that doesn't mean they actually carry that particular market. Here's a couple of others. If you're an Oklahoma State fan, how do you feel about this right now? A couple of Oklahoma State fans have said nervous, but yet excited about the possibility of something new.
I do think if you're Oklahoma State, you're definitely nervous. And I think if you're any of those 8 schools, you're a little bit nervous. But I think there is something, and I know that a lot of Oklahoma fans will probably automatically disagree, but I do think there is that sort of breath of fresh air. It's the same one A&M just experienced without being attached to the hip with Texas. And guess what? A&M fans really enjoyed that. They enjoyed not being called little brother all the time. They enjoyed not having the constant comparisons. So I think that there will be, so long as they land in a nice spot, of course, I think Oklahoma State fans are going to experience that same breath of fresh air, not having to constantly hear about Oklahoma or constantly being compared to Oklahoma or constantly, this or that with Oklahoma. They're still going to be lower on the totem pole because Oklahoma in the SEC is not going to be topped, but they can still carve out a really nice lane for themselves and, do so on their own, so to speak. And I think that'll be something to look forward to potentially.
Big Ten is a fit for Iowa State, Kansas, according to Bracket Busters.
Sure.
I think Kansas State gets screwed in the end.
I think Iowa State would have to work really hard to differentiate themselves if they jump back into a mix with, Iowa, obviously. But, geographically and whatnot, that all makes sense. But, yeah, I think it's the game that everybody's playing all day long right now is who could fit where and what could that look like.
But if you are the teams that have already left conferences to go to a new one and you're bucket loads of money, why would you then look at wanting to rejoin the Big 12 or be a part of the Big 12? Why would Arkansas want to do that? They're about to get like a family member back in Texas. That's a long-time rivalry. Even with Nebraska struggling in the Big Ten, and even though that last year they were kind of bumpy road for them and they never really have been all that accepted, I cannot imagine they'd want to come back. They're making $50 million a year.
Look, they're not going to fill the Big 12 with old Big 12 schools. They're going to have to go down, and
it just is gone.
Or it's just gone, and that's kind of almost what I'm advocating for in a way. But yeah, either way, because of their locations, they're going to be super. And the Big 12 was too with West Virginia's inclusion, but they're going to be stretched big time geographically. It's going to have to become a much larger map. And yeah, I think UCF would be an attractive option. But I think even if you were to go out, let's say you were to grab a UCF, a Houston, or whatever, first of all, the Texas schools don't want to dilute it with too much other Texas talent, as I explained yesterday. Why bring up Houston and SMU to your level and then therefore water down your opportunities? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But bringing in a bunch of these other teams too, UCF, whoever, I don't know that still makes you a power conference. Those weren't power schools to begin with.
Yeah.
Now you don't have Texas, Oklahoma. I can't. And bottom line is, even if you are to sit there and be Bob Bowlesby and say, hey, I've got 4 teams lined up, they're ready to join, that's great. But if those 4 teams are UCF, Kansas, and just throw
Memphis
in 2 others,
and whoever, yeah.
But Kansas gets a call from the Big Ten saying, we'd love your basketball brand in this conference. They're out. And guess what? Now you need another team. So how much does it water down to the point where you're just basically the Southland Conference? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'll say this. One thing, just take out of your mind, nobody goes to a conference because they're going to win titles.
Right.
And like that's why. So why would Arkansas wouldn't come back? I'm sure they thought we might win more in the Big 12, but money, titles are not the thing. They're rare.
Here's one from Darnell on our YouTube channel. Oklahoma won't win a championship in the SEC. It will take 10 years. I will bet you on that.
Okay.
You think I'm wrong?
No.
They're Oklahoma. And yes, they've lost to LSU in a championship game. And yes, they blew the lead against Georgia. And yes, they have been popped by others as well. They're Oklahoma. Again, they're doing this for money and footprint and all that. Oklahoma in football with then the SEC ability to recruit even better. They're already a national brand. It strengthens their national brand.
Now they just pull even with the teams where they were a little bit behind. Now they're just pulling even after a year or two.
Doesn't mean they're not going to lose a game or two more, but that doesn't mean they won't have a run. They almost had Georgia dead to rights. Remember that game? They were damn good, but of course they didn't finish it off. But I would think that within 10 years. They'll win an SEC title in football. I could be wrong. I do believe. If Auburn can, then why can't they? Mm-hmm. If Georgia can, and they haven't won many of them.
I was going to say, when they haven't won one here lately.
I do think that Oklahoma within 10 years, would win an SEC football title. I do.
I think it'll be less than that. Huh? I mean, I think it'll be.
Well, I'm just saying within 10 was what Darnell said. But Darnell, if you're right, you're right. Good for you.
I do think I did have one scenario pop in my head, and this. I mean, look, everybody's doing this all day long. We're all coming up with these various scenarios for conferences and whatnot, but. You know, what the nightmare scenario would be if you're Oklahoma, like the money's not going to dry up ever again. You're going to have that for forever. But what if, like, after a year, Lincoln Riley's like, you know what? The Dallas Cowboys just called. They're getting rid of Mike McCarthy. And I think, you know what? I am ready to make that jump to the NFL. You know, if you hire another Lincoln Riley like you did after Bob Stoops, that's all well and good. But if you don't and you hire a John Blake who you thought was going to be a Bob Stoops and all of a sudden you're in that cellar dweller, it's going to be really tough to pull your shoes up and get out of that. And so, yeah, every decision and all that is you know, very interesting. And, you know, you just hope you keep the band. Maybe that's a pull for Lincoln Riley to stay for forever. But, yeah, there's going to be massive changes and little things like that here and there that are going to make this all so intriguing to follow.
By the way, from Matthew, he said, no, Georgia won the SEC in football in 2019, so that was a correction. Here's from Michael.
Did they really? Okay.
Yeah, how are you doing today? Thanks for letting me be a part of your stream. That said, if Oklahoma, Texas leave, who would go to the Big Ten from anyone among the remaining Big 12 schools? We've kind of mentioned that a little bit.
Georgia played in that game. They got beat by 27 by LSU.
Okay, all right. Matthew, thanks for the text anyway. All right, Max, you just got dunked on. I'm not sure who that was with the possibility it was us. Oh, well. All right, when we come back, is Mickey going to be on with us?
Yes, Mickey
Spagnola in Oxnard, Cowboys training camp. We'll take a break on the Oklahoma-Texas SEC and what happens to the rest of the Big 12. And they're just a few minutes away from a conference call to figure out what the hell they're going to do next. This is Sic'em.
Can somebody please hack that and let's put it all over the internet to listen to, please. Hackers, get that Big 12 conference call and make that public. I want to hear what that's
awesome. Like the first question.
No, Bob Bowles is going to be like, guys.
Hey, guys.
If I'm one of the Big 12 presidents or an AD, whoever's on this conference call, Bob, I've been hard on him, and there have been times I've been okay, but he's the captain of this ship.
Well, I
staring into an iceberg.
Are Chris Del Conte and Joe Castiglione on this call?
Oh, no. Let me tell you something. I hope they are. They
don't care. That's the thing. They don't care.
What are you going to say to them?
Yeah, they're leaving anyways. They don't care. They already run the conference. I mean, Bowlesby's on their level. He's not above them really in any way, and even less so now. So, but that would be hella interesting to listen to.
Is this the beginning of the end? When it comes to NCAA sports.
It's one of the, there's several things that have happened.
Will money cause a massive shift in conference alignments? Things are changing, and the one thing we know is they will continue to change, and this, of course, has been a part of the last 48 hours. Sic'em, SicEm365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr, the summer savings event. A lot of people getting back on the road, and they're getting back on the road in style and in new vehicles, or in the case of Richard Carr, they're getting a lot of people on the road back in used vehicles as well. Travel is here. People going to Disneyland, Disney World, driving cross country to see the family. So take advantage of summer savings and make sure that when you're on the road, you're in a vehicle that you're comfortable in. That's got an AC that works. It doesn't have like muffler problems or whatever the case may be because you've had an old ride for far too long. Get on the road and get back on the road with space, safety, luxury. You can do that in a Buick. Right now, well-qualified buyers get 0% financing for 72 months on most 2021 Buick SUVs. As I mentioned, Richard Carr is also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks, all of them priced to move during the summer savings event, with multiple cars and trucks priced to get you back on the road this summer in a newer vehicle. Each pre-owned goes through a 172-point inspection before it hits the lot. And with dozens of lenders, Richard Carr says yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always their goal. And Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Come by and take a test drive at the dealership, or you can give them a call, send them an email, and set up the opportunity for them to bring the test drive to you and where you are. It's a summer savings event going on all month at Richard Carr.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more. At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy elite tennis facilities and also remain fit or reshape your body. Now Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. There are 7 large flat screens stretched across the main and improved weight room with Wi-Fi available and their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports channels. The beautiful sound of active treadmills and elliptical machines, group exercise classes throughout each day, a new ballet bar for bar classes, a new look lounge and bar with beer and wine with more large flat screens
amenities available. Touchless water fountains outside each spacious men's and women's locker rooms, showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts and lessons for adults and juniors. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Also, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. So start today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
And Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
All right, Mickey Spagnola is in the beautiful Oxnard, California for his, I think, 35th. How many training camps, Mickey, for you?
If I count last year, and I guess it was a training camp, right? This should be 36.
36 for you. I saw where Brad Sham's been in 40-plus. I don't even remember with what it's been with us. But let's get to today's news. They kind of got more serious about life today with football. And then again, the first few days are not quite everything. So any of the news about players who were on physically unable to perform or why surprise you?
No, not really. I think, a couple of those guys had not been practicing in the OTAs and the mini camp. So I think out of an abundance of caution, they put them on the active PUP list. And remember, as soon as they can pass a physical or pass their conditioning test, they can put them, take them off the list. So it's kind of just a precursory move. And again, think about it. These first 4 practices, they're basically mini camp practices. So, DeMarcus Lawrence didn't need to be out there after having a wrist surgery and Amari Cooper foot surgery. So they give these guys a little extra time to come here and rehab and not have to go through practice. So, yeah, I don't think anything came. The only one that I think was surprising, and we didn't know, and I thought it was curious that Greg Zuerlein wasn't in any of the OTA or minicamp practices, or not even on the side kicking. So it was surprising to hear that he had back surgery after the season, and that was one of the reasons why he's here, but he's continuing to rehab. So that one was a little surprising. They didn't seem to be too concerned, but again, as soon as those guys are ready to go, they can take them off PUP.
Mickey, yesterday in the opening press conference, Jerry got emotional. He's gotten emotional before, but do you sense like a real sense of like, man, I'm getting older. I don't know how many of these I have left, and they better get to making hay towards the Super Bowl.
Well, hell, we're all getting older, right? Yeah. No, I think, he's just, when you, and you guys aren't there yet, but when you get older, you get a little more sensitive about things. And you get a little bit more emotional about stuff that maybe 10, 15 years ago, didn't affect you as much. So I think that's kind of one of the things that's kind of been hitting him the last couple of years when he gets emotional. But I think the other thing it just tells you how much this all means to him. He got emotional about things being back to normal almost, and we're back here in training camp, and there's fans going to be as they were today for the first practice, and he's hanging out with the guys and with the team, and it's nearly normal, not quite, just because of all the protocols the NFL and the NFLPA have put on the teams. But yeah, he got emotional over that, and I've seen him talk not quite that emotionally about the Jimmy deal. It would be the first time he's really kind of, not so eloquently, right, said he kind of screwed things up a little bit, and he should have had a deference to, their kind of tug of war that was going on just to keep everything good. And I had never, usually I've heard all his stories. I had never heard the Switzer story before. That was hilarious.
That's a classic.
Right? And I could see him doing that because I see Switzer doing that because Switzer is older, right? Yep. He was their coach when they were at Arkansas. And it's like, you two little goofballs, what are you doing? It was great. It was a great story. And I'm sure HBO should pay extra for getting those sound bites for Hard Knocks.
Mickey, I saw a few minutes ago where former Texas defensive back Holton Hill, who was last with the Vikings, is working out with the Cowboys, which is not unusual during the training camp setting. I know they got a spot open on their roster. Do you have any particular thoughts about Holton Hill or them taking a look at him?
Yeah, I wish I had a great thought about him, but I really don't. I mean, in this type of, at this time of year, think about it. Every team, you can do the math for me. 32 times 90.
Jeez, 2,800.
That's almost. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And this guy is not on a roster, so the guys don't fall through the cracks. So to me, it's you got a roster spot. Yeah, you probably had scouting reports on a guy like that, and you just bring him in for a workout and see how they do. Hey, look, I've seen guys come in here for workouts and they were in such bad shape. The scouts were so mad at the 8. You let this guy come in here to do this and waste my time. So hopefully, the guy is ready to go and they got an open spot. So you get in a training camp. You never know when you can put something on tape.
What about Jerry yesterday also playing to Hard Knocks? And part of that was him feeding Hard Knocks with some things that he was saying.
Oh, yeah. I think that, part of the F-bombs that he dropped probably had, a little bit to do with knowing that, okay, we're going to give you something. But the other thing, he understands the value of Hard Knocks, not just for the Cowboys' sake, but for the league's sake, to grab some attention, to grab some eyeballs, to make sure that, the NFL, no matter what's going on, doesn't fade into the background, especially with the Olympics coming up, right? So, there's a little showman in him, absolutely. But, the way I looked at it, that was an hour of gold yesterday because we just haven't been around them that much. The draft, maybe. We had kind of in-person press conferences, Dak's hiding. But other than that, David, there's guys walking around here. I got no idea who they are because we haven't done any interviews. We haven't done any one-on-one interviews. It was like when they're in their street clothes walking around here, I was going, they should have name tags on so we know who they are, or at least put a number on.
That's kind of like it was with us when we finally got in front of some players at Baylor. If you did not have a jersey number on, or they weren't obvious somebody who weighed 350 or whatever, then it was that way for me back during the spring. Mickey Spagnola with us, DallasCowboys.com.
Mickey, They were very strong. Jerry and Steven very strong on the vaccination thing, that they're going to be well past 85%, and they kind of want to be a trailblazer in that. How much do you think that if you're one of the guys who's holding out and you're on the bubble, the roster bubble, and you're just not going to get the vaccine, that might be the thing that goes, all right, well, see ya?
Well, the good thing is for the guys that the two third rounders that hadn't signed their contracts, they both got them done on Tuesday. So that eliminated the holdout part. But I'm thinking if I'm not vaccinated and got to make a decision and I'm a borderline player, deep and who to cut, I'm gone because they can't take a chance on me. The NFL hasn't come out, not that I've seen, with a COVID-19 IR list like they did last year, right? Remember, it was and the IR was just 3 weeks and then you can go off and come back on. They haven't said they're going to do that. So to me, if you test positive, they're not obligated, legally obligated to keep you, and so let me put it this way. There's so many incentives for these guys to get vaccinated that if it was me, I'd be running to CVS right now, down the block, and get my shot, or at least get the first one. They've got to get tested every day. The guys are unvaccinated. They got to wear masks around here. They can't eat with the team. They're not supposed to travel with the team either to games. They can't leave the premises. You can go out to dinner. Can't have any visitors. So that would be enough for you. And now with the new thing that came out today about, forfeiting paychecks if you cause an outbreak and you're unvaccinated, gosh, I just don't know. I don't get it. But, I was young once, I guess.
Yeah, Mickey, this is your 36 counting last year. That's great. I know that. I know how. So give us a little. Is there any kind of fog coming in from the coast? Is it 75? What's it like?
This morning when I went off for my bike ride, when I came back, I felt like I kind of worked up a little bit of a sweat, and I'm going, well, what's the deal? And I'm sure it was low 60s. The sun was out pretty strong. There was no. Well, right now, it's not a marine layer. It's just clouding up a little bit, so the sun is not as intense as it was when we had the our time 10 o'clock press conference with Mike McCarthy, and then watching the practice for the next 2 hours. But it's kind of cooled off right now. I haven't checked the temperature. My guess is it's low 70s.
I know one thing. There were times
little chilly here,
Yeah, there were times in the evening we got to go, and I know you as well. In the evening, you better have had kind of a light jacket at times because when that baby came popping in and it got a little bit cool, it did. It was beautiful, but
and you know what they've done, David? So Mike McCarthy wants the big practice. So the big practice used to take place when Jason was here. They go about 3:00, 3:30. And it would last to 5:30, 6, and by the time we got done with interviews on the field, it's 6:30. And you needed, but Mike's turned it around. The main practice is at 11, and then they do the little walkthrough thing later on. But we're not allowed to attend that. Fans aren't allowed either. But 11 to 1. This is prime time for the weather, and you don't have to go run for a jacket. And decision out here in the morning is it short sleeves or long sleeves.
Wow.
And it's although the locals tell me that when the heat wave hit the Northwest, that the temperatures here in Oxnard actually got to 90 degrees for a couple days. And they were miserable. And I said, "Oh, you don't know misery with heat."
I'm telling you right now, they don't have any idea, just like we don't know about some of the things they experience. Mickey, thank you. Mickey Spagnola.
Okay.
DallasCowboys.com with us on Thursday, or if any kind of breaking news with the Cowboys as well. When we come back, Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, SicEm365 Radio. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, the Pioneer way. Metal buildings, design it, build it. They can help you with the various designs, the options, components, the trim and color options. Metal Building Gallery to give you all sorts of options of what they have built and what their product has built over the years. Metal roofing, including quality protection every single day. And they have a metal roofing gallery as well. And then pipe and steel, structural, both pipe and steel, purlin, tubing, beams and weld plates, H-braces, fence posts, culverts and gates, sheet and expanded metal. Building Wizard is what they are. They are amazing since 1943. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, Waco and Bryan, open Saturdays 8 till noon. The Pioneer Way at pioneerboys.com.
Allen Samuels is holding the Make This the Summer sales event with special values on the new 2021 Jeep Renegade Latitude with up to $3,750 in total values or 1.9% for 72 months, plus $500 in bonus cash and no payments for 90 days. Make this the summer sales event at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house-cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar.
Welcome to the 5 o'clock hour, SicEm365 Radio. Craig, David Smoak, Paul Catalina, Armstrong Sims and his army behind the scenes as well. We've been talking a lot about Big 12 news and happenings, and Oklahoma and Texas, the SEC, just got done talking to some Cowboys with Mickey. So now taking a look at a few other different stories that are going on around sports. Las Vegas has quickly become New Oakland, basically. Mm-hmm. You've had the Raiders that have moved to Las Vegas. The Golden Knights weren't a transfer over from Oakland because they had no NHL team there. But it doesn't look like the city of Las Vegas is stopping anytime soon their pursuit of becoming the next professional sports mecca. And a team that could be joining the Golden Knights and the Raiders very soon, well, the Raiders know them very well, the Oakland A's. They have been in long battles over their stadium, and the fact that their stadium is a complete garbage dump of a facility and has been for years now at this point. But there's been a lot of back and forth with, the city of Oakland and the A's organization, just like there was with the Raiders and the Warriors before they also left town to go across the bridge to San Francisco. But it's looking more and more like Vegas could be the spot for the Oakland A's. On Tuesday, Oakland City Council officials voted in favor of a non-binding term sheet for a new ballpark and a surrounding development. But that has been pushed back on by Oakland A's president Dave Cavall. He's because the city voted in favor of a term sheet that differed from the one the A's proposed 3 months earlier, and the city also included amendments that the team hadn't seen until it was put in front of them just on Tuesday. Rob Manfred from Major League Baseball said he was disappointed in the outcome and that they would immediately begin conversations with the A's to chart a path forward for the club. So basically, Cavall said they're going to unpack everything, but it's looking more and more like the A's could be on the move to Las Vegas, if not another potential spot. But they said they'd probably finance a ballpark. It'd be about $1 billion, all that, but it just doesn't look like something's going to get done with the city of Oakland, guys. Your thoughts on the Las Vegas A's potentially?
It's a bummer for the city of Oakland, but have you either been to the Oakland Coliseum?
Yeah, one time.
It is a dump.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's an absolute dump.
You know what it reminds me of? Like the old cookie-cutter stadiums that's gone bad.
Yeah. I went there. I went to one A's game and sat pretty close to the field, and there were cobwebs on the cup holders. I mean, that's one of the things where you're like, this is how long since somebody sat in these seats that there's cobwebs, and it's unfortunate. But also the city of Oakland, and I think rightfully so, fought building a new stadium because building the other ones put them in the hole. And so, they can't do it. If they can't come to it, then maybe Oakland's not a place that needs to have professional sports teams, unfortunately, and I hate it for those fans, but, that's the business world.
Yeah, so the city came out with what they came out with. The A's did not see eye to eye with that. Meanwhile, A's brass has taken what amounts to now 4 trips to Las Vegas for, scouting and whatnot, discussions, since the A's were given the green light to look around and look at potential opportunities outside of Oakland. Since then, the A's brass has gone to the city of Vegas 4 times. So there's also been rumors, in the past of the Diamondbacks potentially making a move, or, they were rumored at one point for Vegas, but the A's in Vegas looks like it could be moving on down the tracks, and Las Vegas would suddenly have 3 pro sports teams. City of Oakland would have nothing left. They would have absolutely no pro sports teams left.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the changing geography of sports in America.
Even the Golden State Warriors, right?
They're in San Francisco now. Yeah. They're in San Francisco now. I'm not going to probably talk too much about Conor McGregor moving forward. I have on past editions of Off the Radar because that's really when we get some time to talk the bigger MMA headlines. But, of course, a couple weekends ago, he broke his leg throwing a kick at a big fight with Dustin Poirier, their trilogy fight. Poirier obviously won by default, and Conor's, tried to drum up interest in, various scenarios since. He's given updates on his injury, and he's kind of vowed to be back and whatnot. Maybe a third, or actually it would be a 4th Poirier fight would happen. I don't know how many people would have interest in that. There's always been the cherry dangled of, the 3rd trilogy fight with Nate Diaz. I think there'd be some interest in that, but there's not really stakes for that fight anymore other than just bragging rights. Khabib's not coming out of retirement just to whoop Conor. I mean, there's not a lot of great paths forward for him, and some might have thought with that gruesome leg break that he would just go ahead and call it a career, maybe entirely. He certainly made enough money. He had to go under the knife for 3 hours to repair that leg break. But UFC President Dana White said it will take at least a year for Conor McGregor to recover before he's able to come back and fight at some point. So he just gave a little bit of a timeline. It said that, Conor's been dealing with a lot of various injuries, but a year away from the octagon at the bare minimum, it looks like, for Conor McGregor. So what do you guys think about the way his star has sort of fallen over the last 2-3 years since he was at the height of his superpower, so to speak?
It's a bummer. I mean, I hate it when, especially someone who is, everybody can agree is the best at one thing, and then they're not. Mm-hmm. I think UFC is going to be a sport for a long time, though, that's probably going to is going to have this. They're going to have these great times where they have the Ronda Rouseys and the Conor McGregors and all that, and then not going to be that great for a little bit.
There's a transition where guys get older, girls get older, and they're not as good, like Ronda, like Conor. Yeah. But there will be another GSP or a Khabib Nurmagomedov or someone like that that'll roll through. But Conor McGregor looking at least a year. So any talk about another fight for him is way on the back burner at this point. We don't talk a lot of hockey, but last night the Seattle Kraken expansion franchise held their inaugural draft. They were able to complete their roster throughout their expansion picks, so they are now loaded for bear. They picked the 32nd franchise in NHL history, and the names is kind of a bummer if you're a Kraken fan. You're getting all excited about who might join your team. The names had actually leaked out earlier in the day, so it was all pretty much spoiled. But have you seen the uniforms? I like them.
Yeah,
I think it's a cool look.
Yeah, the uniforms are nice. Armstrong, can you look up the uniforms and put them up on the screen?
And they had a all-star cast: Sue Bird, Gary Payton, Marshawn Lynch, Sean Kemp. They all joined GM Ron Francis to announce their 30 selections. I
think Beast Mode did the first one. I saw that on Twitter.
Marshawn?
Yeah, he did the first one, and I love him. He's awesome. He's awesome. He's hilarious, and he's actually going to start acting. He's in some acting. He's good. Man. He's great. But I think that looks like they did what the Golden Knights did a couple of years ago, and instead of going for the stars, they went with that kind of thing where we just want good players. Not necessarily great players, so that we can be competitive pretty quickly. And I think it was pretty smart. Yeah, there you go. There's the uniforms.
There's the Seattle Threads right there. The Kraken. Pretty cool.
Wait a minute. There's somebody that has colors like that.
The Mariners.
Okay.
So it's like it's kind of like they're doing the thing like Pittsburgh does. The teams in Pittsburgh all have black and gold, and they're all kind of similar. So you can mix and match.
Yeah, no doubt. This was just a small note from how the SEC teams are adjusting to life, with lots of talk about Texas and Oklahoma potentially joining the conference. Of course, LSU, Missouri, Arkansas, Auburn, Alabama, they all dip into the state of Texas for a couple of players every year. But Missouri head coach Eli Drinkwitz had the best response pretty much immediately, and I just thought this was a fun note. But upon hearing the news about potential SEC expansion, he's already telling recruits that are going, potentially to look at Oklahoma and Texas versus Missouri. See, even the Longhorns and Sooners want to play in the SEC. Mm-hmm. So that's the approach that Missouri's head coach is taking, and I would imagine a lot of others will take that approach as well. So, yeah, that'll last for, a year? Because probably they're going to turn right around. If everything goes the way that we think it's going, they'll be in there in just about a year. And one final note, the Olympics are sort of kind of underway. I saw a softball game on the other night. There was no one there.
Yeah, soccer's playing.
Yeah, Kat Osterman was on the mound for Team USA. I remember watching her at Texas 25 years ago, and she was awesome there. But one country has already pulled out, and it is the nation of Guinea. The African nation has backed out of the Tokyo Games, citing the COVID-19 pandemic as its reasoning. Their Minister of Sports said in a letter to the Olympic Committee, due to the resurgence of COVID variants, the government, concerned with preserving the health of Guinean athletes, has decided to regret to cancel Guinea's participation in the 32nd Olympics scheduled for Tokyo. They were only sending 5 athletes. It's a very small place out there in Africa. They had a freestyle wrestler, a pair of swimmers, a runner, and a judo competitor. They've never won a medal. They've only been in 11 Olympics, but they will not be in a 12th, at least this time around. So small team decided it's not worth the stress of it, and I don't think they'll be the last nation that we hear about some cancellations of some sort, but there's a few things that are off the radar.
All right, very nice. Normally a little bit earlier at 4:45 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but today pushed back with all the talk about what is the future of the SEC with Texas and Oklahoma, and also what does that mean for those left in the Big 12. All right, when we come back, let's see, Paul.
We got a little bit of time before Ross Dellinger so we can catch up.
Ross Dellinger of SI.com. He's been all over this as well. I want to say something about a place that's a sponsor of this show, Stonewood Dental. I was there earlier today for a root canal, and I'm telling you, Dr. Steve Childress is very special. When you're 62 years old and there's things that probably you could have taken care of a little bit better over the years, this guy's a magician. I'm not saying he does anything like with a wand or anything like that, but I just saw he's amazing. He is absolutely amazing, and I want to thank Dr. Steve Childress, his staff today, for what they helped me do with a root canal that was a little bit more complicated than perhaps most of them are. Is there anyone that looks forward to getting the needle in the mouth? Is there a couple of sickos that like that?
I'm sure there are. Sure,
never thought about it.
I'm sure there's a very specific adult site that's just about that. But
probably.
Oh God! Don't make me laugh too loud.
But there's an OnlyFans for it too.
Yeah, I mean, sure there is. But
is there any more? Is that among one of the worst? Isn't that why people end up with a lot of dental problems? Is because they don't want to go to the dentist?
Here's the thing. I don't even necessarily. I know it hurt. The needle in the mouth hurts. I would rather than put a blindfold over my eyes because he has to put this thumb in the needle.
That's why you keep your eyes closed all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep your eyes closed.
Yeah, but but the problem is I look and he's like, moving it around.
If I see it, I'm out.
Yeah.
If I absolutely happen to see the length and he's amazing. And they kind of have this thing now where they get there, and they jiggle your jaw a little. They jiggle your cheek, and it's not quite as bad as it used to be. But I'm telling you, have you ever had one in the roof of your mouth? Tooth pulled. You got to do one, and then that's like, Emma, have you? Yeah, isn't that about as bad as it? And he makes that feel comfortable.
Root canal is better than getting the tooth pulled.
No, it is.
Yeah, you would think that just the tooth pulled takes less time.
I think all of us have had some dental work over the. I know Craig, you and I have, and he was fantastic.
Oh, don't you remember I think it was the Baylor Texas freezing cold game. I had some dental work done, and I took a breath in, and it wasn't completely done, and I about passed out.
I asked this question because I had not eaten anything, so I stopped at a fast food place and got a milkshake. And for some reason, I had always thought in my mind, one of these like father's tales or whatever you want to call a mother's tale, that you weren't allowed to have a milkshake. But Emma, you said you had a smoothie one time after you'd been to the dentist. So that's all I've had. I've had a chocolate milkshake. And I might be a little high as a kite too because of what I got as I was walking out the door. I'm not so sure. All right, enough of that.
So yeah, enough of that. That's a good story. Not trying to push you to the wayside there.
Boring the hell out of you.
No. I saw something that's far more interesting. No offense, and that's Pete Thamel saying that multiple sources have indicated to Yahoo that Oklahoma and Texas are not expected to take part in the Big 12 call this evening. They
don't care.
They are saying that the call is more about a discussion from, I guess, the remaining 8 members of the future and contingencies. But yeah, they absolutely don't care. And I was kind of curious about them taking part anyways. To say what? Just say goodbye formally last time. So
you blocked my call or something like that.
So they're not even taking part in the call according to Pete Thamel. So it'll just be the 8, I guess, athletic directors, and wouldn't be surprised some presidents were on that call or whatnot as well. But, yeah, they won't even be a part of it.
TJ said that's interesting. And they shouldn't be. If it's about the future, then they shouldn't be. You got to wonder how those conversations are. A
lot of cussing at the very beginning, I would imagine. Can you believe those? A lot of that probably at the very beginning. But I believe it. I can't believe people are surprised by it. I'm not saying I'm not surprised by – everyone was surprised by the move itself, like the idea of Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. But how anyone under the sun could be surprised that these two schools would do this and do it in the fashion they did, you have not been paying attention for however long you've been, able to pay attention to something. This is so textbook them that I'm not surprised by it at all. You know what? They did what's best for their brands. You can agree with it, disagree with it, but they did. And they're on the other side smelling like roses, and they don't care that the other ones are covered in poop at the moment.
They really don't. And usually they never have. Here's one of the texts from the 818. What do y'all think will happen first? The 12-team playoff for Oklahoma and UT in the SEC. I thought I heard something about contracts in place through 2025. The Big 12 TV contracts are through the 2024 football season. So you have 21, 22, that's 4 years. Unless I'm missing this, there is no way that they'll remain with if this happens, which it's going to, if it happens, when it happens, they're gone. And then you wonder about the settlement factor, because otherwise you're talking about maybe $150 million in grant of rights money, maybe per school, right?
Well, yeah, you're talking about that if the Big 12 actually has the balls, the cojones,
the
grapefruits.
Why wouldn't they? What do they have to lose?
When have they shown that they have them?
I know.
When have they, especially with Oklahoma and Texas, when have they ever shown that they would put up a fight against those? So I'm saying is the Big 12 should be on the receiving end of some money, but would it shock me if somehow Texas or Oklahoma talk or politic their way out of that too? Absolutely not. The Big 12 is looking dumber than ever. Do I expect them to now jump up and actually show a backbone? Absolutely not.
What could either one of them offer the remaining 8 teams enough for them to say, we don't want every dollar, unless Oklahoma says they want to still keep playing Oklahoma State? Will they want to do that along with the SEC games?
Well, bottom line to what you were saying a second ago is that contract is a schmontract. It means absolutely nothing, and this will be the last year of the Big 12 as we know it. This upcoming season is the last one that will include Texas and Oklahoma, and it may be the last one with the name Big 12 attached to it. That's what the future actually is. That grant of rights, that means nothing in the long run.
When we come back, we'll have a couple more thoughts. Paul's top 5 in about 40 minutes or so. And then on top of that, of course, Ross Dellinger from SI.com, his thoughts, his latest, as, again, the Big 12 is in the middle of a conference call right now. 8 of the teams trying to find out what the hell they do next. This is SicEm365 Radio.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Three Nations Brewing Company is a recognized award-winning brewery that has been recognized for being a community leader, a successful business, and most of all for brewing great beer. Three Nations offers the community something fun all throughout the week. Wednesday night bingo, Thursday trivia, New Beer Friday promotes fresh beer from their small batch system and live music every Saturday night. There are regular celebrations such as St. Patrick's Day, Switchyard, Cinco de Mayo, July 4th, new beer launches, dog rescues, annual anniversary events, and Oktoberfest parties. Three Nations is a dog-friendly and family-friendly brewery. Don't miss out on the fun. So come visit Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
Purdy escapes, throws downfield, and intercepted. Kalen Barnes comes up with it.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, we have an image. This is from Max Olson, who joined us just 2 days ago. And, of course, then this story popped the day after we did. Ross Dellinger will join us from SI.com momentarily. Here is an image that Max Olson put up, and the one on the left on your television screen were blue chips signed by certain schools from 2008 to 2012. That's a shorter period of time than on the right, but the percentages or whatever you can see. The orange piece of the pie, the burnt orange, Texas had a large chunk, as you would expect, and even still do. 79 recruits out of 246. Oklahoma was second, A&M third. There's no name of Alabama on the left image. None. There's no Ole Miss, and LSU's in the conversation, right? Now, go to the right image. Texas, 92. So you're talking about in a shorter amount of time, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 years, they had 79. In a longer period of time, 8 or 9 years, it's 92. That's like a lesser percentage, and A&M has jumped to 78. Oklahoma's still getting a nice number. Baylor, with their success, gets a bigger number, but look at Alabama and look at LSU.
Look at Texas Tech falling off the map, basically.
Yep.
They went from 4th to 10th, basically.
Yeah. Ohio State, of course, has made great inroads. About 2 or 3, one or two guys a year with them.
What A&M leaving did was opened up so many other things, and so you see all that. Like there's many more fish in the water. What Texas would like to do is be able to take some of those fish back, and we'll see. I mean, but this is what but I'll say this: I think this is what the chart will pretty much look like now. Texas will still get their big chunk, but the damage has been done.
As far as what?
As far as, them not like the thing on the left is never coming back. The one on the right is pretty much how it's going to be.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
I think Oklahoma's slice might get a little bigger too. I think it might be more of like a third apiece, maybe not quite all the way, but that's very interesting. I mean, to see all of the the Notre Dames, the Ole Misses, the UCLAs that have now jumped on the bottom of that list, and to see a Texas Tech fall back, a TCU jump forward. Oklahoma State's pretty much remained exactly where they are. So it's an interesting chart. You definitely see how the years have sort of changed the percentages, but I think you're probably right as far as that staying about where it is or close to it. Like I said, I think Oklahoma might get a little more of a share, and Texas will probably get that initial SEC bump, where they were losing out kids to A&M that now they'll likely get because there won't be that SEC factor involved. So, that's the thing I went back to last night. Of course, obviously top of mind is what happens to these other 8 schools and their fan bases and their programs and whatnot. But I couldn't help but also just shake of all the people who were caught off guard, shocked, or upset by yesterday's news, whatever the case may be, no one had to feel worse than A&M. Like, I can't imagine how. Yes, there's Baylor fans and TCU fans and Oklahoma State fans that are like, oh my gosh, we might not be in the mix anymore, and I get why that's so grave. But, just as far as interest level of a story, A&M going from beating their chest over the SEC and suddenly getting these wins in recruiting and having this forever one-upsmanship of saying, well, we're in the SEC. That kind of just trumps everything else. That's out the window now. That's entirely out. They are not unique in any way now versus the main schools they're competing with.
In their Big 12 exit interview, you ask them, why are you leaving? To get away from Texas. And then why else? That's it. We're done. We want to be able to, that was it. That's why they left.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to get away from Texas. And then.
But, they at least do have the knowledge that this is not going to be the same as when they were paired with Texas the last time. This is obviously going to be very different in terms of who's got the pull and the sway. Texas will, I'm sure, find a way to have some, but they're certainly not going to have the level of what they had in the Big 12, nor will Oklahoma, and it's going to be more of an even playing field. So that's another interesting aspect of this. But A&M really got a kick right between the uprights yesterday, in my opinion, and they'll be fine, but a lot of what they were boasting about or feeling good about these last several years, kind of now all null and void.
I would like to see the first, just record the first meeting between Greg Sankey and the Texas power brokers. It says, listen, guys, when I say something, I say something. I'm the voice of the conference. Do you get it? And they're like, yeah. No. We're not leaving this room until everyone says, I understand.
Right.
Yes, Greg, I understand.
Yeah, no, I think they understand. They mean, like I was saying earlier, I think they understand that whatever drawbacks there may be to this, which is, maybe a lessening of power or a stranglehold at the top of the conference leadership, whatever it may mean as far as, maybe you're more of a 7-5 team for the next few years than you are an 11-win team if you were to stay in the Big 12. I think they realize all that, and like I said earlier, I don't think they care because they see the other things that are more beneficial, like the security, like the financial aspect of it, the new breath of fresh air of traveling to new places and playing new teams. And you get the Arkansas rivalry back. You get the A&M rivalry back. You have the LSU rivalry that could become a big thing. You still got Oklahoma right there. So, I mean, tell me why it's not a good idea. And there's no argument that it isn't other than it was just, sleazy, so to speak, in the way it went down. But, I mean, how else was it going to go down? Were they going to come walking through the door and say, hey, guys, I want to let y'all know? I mean, A&M, Zwerneman blew the top off of that and didn't allow them that opportunity. So, yeah, it's I thought
crazy. When the story came out yesterday that perhaps it was a story that Oklahoma and Texas popped because they wanted to upstage the SEC media days and A&M's day on. It was A&M that said, we need to get this out here. This has got too much steam, and we need to kind of put a wet blanket on this. All right, when we come back, and the SEC has 8 games. Maybe they go to 9. Maybe they stick the same. That's something that's down the road. They'll figure it all out. But Ross Dellinger, SI.com, is next on SicEm365 Radio.
The First National Bank of Central Texas, 5 locations right here at home: Waco, Woodway, Hewitt, China Spring, Martin, Hillsboro. Familiar faces making local decisions here to help you, your business, and your family. Whether it's great times or tough times, all of us need a bank we can count on. Great people with great technology dedicated to their customers and helping our area grow. Safe banking in person or use their online and mobile apps, convenient drive-thrus and ATMs at all locations. They've got great stuff like instant issue debit cards. You can have your debit card ready in minutes if you lose it or it gets compromised or identity theft or whatever. Go to the bank. You can even do it in the drive-thru, and you have immediate activation and access to funds so you don't have to wait for the mail. That's at the First National Bank of Central Texas, 5 locations right here at home.
Make the summer sales event as rocking at Allen Samuels with the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star with total values up to $5,250 or 2.9% for 72 months plus $1,000 bonus cash. The 1500 Crew Cab has the top safety rating and is ranked number 1 in full-size pickup trucks. Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it. And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month. Includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio.
The SicEm365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
All right, here we go. We'll have Ross Dellinger, SI.com. We hope here pretty soon. Paul's Top 5 soon. Don't forget, on August the 10th, Scott Drew, the Green and Gold celebration featuring national champion head coach, hosted by the Downtown Rotary Club of Houston, the ballroom at the Bayou Place, Tuesday, August the 10th, 11:30 to 1. Again, the Baylor alumni and Downtown Rotary Club of Houston, an in-person lunch featuring Scott Drew, and tickets on sale from individual tickets to group like tables, etc., at various prices.
Yeah, we need to make sure John McClain's there. He can cover that for us. But he's probably already well aware of that event going down in Houston, I would imagine. But I did want to add one thing to the report that I brought up a few minutes ago as far as, Oklahoma and Texas not being on that call with the rest of the Big 12 officials. Well, one note that Nicole Auerbach of The Athletic added on to that, they were invited to be on the call, and they just weren't on the call anyways. So,
sorry, we're kind of busy.
Why would you invite them?
I don't know, but she says neither Oklahoma nor Texas are on the Big 12 call tonight. All 10 schools were invited to attend. So, yeah, it wasn't even a matter of they weren't invited. They were, and they just said, no thanks, we're not with you guys anymore anyways. So, I'm just throwing more gasoline on a raging inferno anyways, but I just thought that was of interest.
Oh my Lord. It's they're going to get the leave. They're going to get all of what they want. And the Big 12 is going to eventually settle. Isn't that what they do when you get legal? All right, we'll take half of it. No, we're not going to give you that either. Can you give us a couple of million each? But there's like $150 million here. And none of the schools who are being left behind, none of them are that well off.
You're talking about two schools with 4 years left on the TV deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if they leave early, now I know that like people will say, well, I guess they're just saying they're going to leave at the end of the TV deal. No. I just don't see that. Like you're going to play 4 more years knowing they're going to leave.
Not.
No,
they're going to play this year and they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
I just said that a few minutes ago. I will stand by that. And I think most people are assuming the same as well. I mean, that would just be, it's going to be awkward enough this year. It's just going to be kind of strange to begin with.
Well, remember how what was with all the other ones that left?
Yeah, I wasn't around for that.
I wasn't around for that.
So this is
yeah, it was.
I was thinking the other day, actually, we've covered pretty much in the time that I've been in Waco, which is a few years now. I was thinking of all the major things you can cover, and obviously a national championship in football has been elusive, although they've knocked on the door. They were first team out in the inaugural playoff. Under an expanded scenario, they would have made it a couple more times here as of late. But, obviously they've covered a scandal, covered conference championships, covered a basketball national championship for both the men and the women. But one thing I missed out on before I arrived was realignment. So get to check that box off now, and I don't know that I'm looking forward to it.
At least the people in power at Baylor have been on the job for more than 17 minutes. Ken Starr got here, and it was like, hey, welcome aboard. By the way,
that's about how long I was here.
I mean, it was what it was.
A couple more of you on YouTube and a few of the others on the text line. We're waiting to hear from Ross Dellinger, From Andrea, do you think Texas gains a recruiting advantage in the SEC because it's cooler to live in Austin versus some of the small towns like College Station and Norman?
I will answer that question for every city in America. No. It's never about the city. It's always about the coach.
From Steve, I really don't think so. Austin is a great town, but no different than most SEC towns. And people, of course, Texas fans or Austin fans or Austin residents would disagree, including our good friend Andrew Baker.
Well, I mean, Austin's a nice. I mean, well, it was a nice city. It's changed now, but a little bit because it's overcrowded. But
it's still nice. It's just not.
It's not what it was.
What it was. Yeah.
But I'll tell you this: if the nice city meant anything, then San Diego State should be calling people going, where? I mean, that's
Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Pepperdine should have Saban as head coach.
Yeah, exactly. So that doesn't mean, Miami's gone through ups and downs, and Miami is a beautiful campus and a really nice part of the city. They've gone up and down. It doesn't matter. It's all about the coach, and it's all about the program. Baton Rouge isn't that great of a city, really. I mean,
neither is Tuscaloosa.
It's a college town. Entire SEC attacking us.
I'm like, they're fine, but it's not like they're not San Diego or the Honolulu or something. I mean, it's just.
I think of some of the great programs, for the longest time, there's a lot of Norman, Lincoln. I mean, that's kind of what college football's history is.
I think you can find a recruit who's probably chosen a destination for every reason under the sun. I would imagine there's certainly guys who have chosen UCLA or USC to
or Miami,
be in Los Angeles or Texas because of Austin, because maybe they grew up in Merkel or Corsicana or something, and that's a huge move. And I know there's players out there that have chosen schools for uniforms and coaches and the offense, you can find any reason under the sun why somebody has chosen it, but ultimately is the city that much of a sway? No, I don't think so. I think what you guys are saying is pretty spot on.
Here's a question from 214. Thank you for your text. What does this do to our 2022 recruiting class, or is it too early to tell?
Well, I was thinking about that last night. It's too early to tell. That was a question, regardless of any of this stuff going on with realignment. That would be a question just based on what the football season looks like. If they go out and they put up another 2-10, then that recruiting class is going to be on shaky ground to begin with. So they needed to win more games than they have been recently to try and further cement that recruiting class, but. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe if there's a couple of guys that a Texas or an Oklahoma is interested in and they want to start selling that SEC card already, then that could have an effect. But I don't know how many of those guys in Baylor's class have that kind of interest. So it's too early to tell right now.
Right. So, and it is. We don't know, and don't think that they're not having to discuss that among not just in Ames or in Stillwater, but in Waco or up in Fort Worth or in Lubbock, among other places as well. This thing about the Big 12 having a conference call and inviting Texas and Oklahoma to be a part of it. And then
what were they going to say? It's
true?
True?
I'm sorry. Why would you invite them?
That's why the Big 12 is breaking up.
Yeah, I mean.
Because of decisions like that. They left. They're leaving. They're leaving, and they didn't even tell you they were leaving until someone else had to tell you they were leaving. Oklahoma State was completely blindsided. They're an hour and a half away. I mean, they're completely blindsided. So don't extend them the courtesy of it. You make your plans without them, and then you can have a conference.
Boss move.
So you have a conference. You have a conference call later with them if you say, like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Are you guys really leaving? Yes. Okay. Call's over.
And like I just said a few minutes ago, when you're talking about what money they might have to pay, and why I was saying I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form if they go out with relatively no penalty whatsoever, is because the Big 12 has never had a backbone or cojones. And so they invited the two teams that are basically breaking up the conference to take part in the call about those two teams breaking up the conference. And you mean to tell me they're going to suddenly dig their heels in the sand and really be forceful with OU and Texas over some money? Give me a break.
Here's a great question, but these are things that eventually, I'm telling you, they're not going to lose stuff like this. Like Texas and OU will play every year. It'll be a crossover game if, in fact, they're not in the same pod division, whatever, which they will be. Will the Texas-OU game move to the end of the year or still be played in October? I'm telling you right now, they're not losing these battles. They're not going to lose. They will be that game will be played during the state fair in October, no matter what conference they're a part of.
But that's what the SEC wants, though. They want
sure
that.
They do. That's what
they
want
that.
But they're not going to give. But even if that was brought up,
what would be an interesting move, and there might be a really easy way to talk the SEC out of this. But if they wanted, there's been talk for a really long time, but there's a variety of reasons for why it wouldn't work. Put that game at night at the state fair.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the state fair atmosphere is why you wouldn't want that game at night, because too many people will be liquored up and angry and wanting to fight and all that. But that would be a sight to behold, would be that game at nighttime. But it may be too much of a security, safety kind of thing to pull that off. But, Oklahoma and Texas are going to have some say, maybe on a situation like that rivalry game and whether or not they would ever be interested in moving it or changing up the terms of it. But they're not going to have as much as they used to have. I mean, that's one thing that's very clear.
No, it's a lot of things I got to tell you, when I first saw this, I'm going to tell you as someone who's being selfish about what we do. We love this SicEm365 Radio. It wasn't even in existence until April 6th a year ago. This has given us a lot of your eyeballs and ears, even if some of you don't like what we're talking about, or you're, like you don't understand who we come from or what we do. College football is a major part of what we do, no matter if it's the Big 12 or what Baylor or whatever conference. We have added a bunch of you to what we do, and we've appreciated all of you, even if it's for 2 or 3 days, for 2 or 3 weeks, or 2 or 3 months. But it gave me heartburn. It gave me heartburn because it appeared as if, and not being foolish or naive, but it appeared as if the conference had a drama-free summer, one of the few times ever. And this does shake the boat. This does put dents in the car. This is hail damage. And I don't know the future of what happens with Baylor or anyone else that's left over. I don't. And yes, I look at it that way selfishly, that, boy, a lot of people better have had a plan B, C, and D, and I don't know how many of them did. I wouldn't underestimate some of the ADs or presidents are among the 8 teams that are left out. I wouldn't underestimate it. And are we on the phone? God almighty, this is 24 hours old. That's why they're having this conference call. And eventually we'll be able to hear from either Dr. Livingstone or Jason Cook and or Mac Rhodes, among others. And it'll be interesting to know what they have to say when we hear from them. Mac was on vacation, tucked away, decompressing.
He was, but
part of the job. That's why you make the money.
I look at it that way as that's unfortunate, but I also know he was on the phone with us 2 weeks ago, and I'm not saying this is a slight to Mac Rhodes, but just talk about how out of nowhere this was. As I mentioned in my article today, he was completely blindsided and had absolutely no idea that this was in the works. And like you said, had gone on vacation and thought after the COVID stuff, which Baylor was, of all the schools, was hit probably amongst the hardest of anybody in the entire country year-round with COVID problems. But between that, the NCAA stuff, the NIL, and just one thing after another, you finally get a few minutes to decompress and kind of hit that reset button before everything spikes back up in a major way for the next, 10 months. And this is completely out of nowhere. I'm surprised there wasn't I don't know. I just think it's quite interesting how assuring he was about the Big 12's future just a couple of weeks ago, and how adamant he was about that, and to now know that those were all completely false hopes built on nothing of substance foundationally. and the whole house is just built on nothing really, and it's been blown away. It's crazy, and I can't imagine what must be going. As much as we're reacting to it, I can't imagine what's going through his mind, because 2 weeks ago you thought, hey, we're finally in a secure place. We're finally, on good ground and solid ground, and now the rug's been pulled out from under you. So I can't wait till we talk to him again.
One final note, this is from Daniel, and Paul's got breaking news on a former Ranger player, and sometimes a nightmare. But one of the things that I think Daniel just mentioned this, I believe it was Daniel, that if in fact all the conferences end up going to 16, which was one of those ideas even 10 years ago, 4 16-team power conferences, and then whatever Notre Dame decides to do as well. If it does get to the Power 5, includes 64, 68 teams, Baylor will be a part of that. They will be, at least in my opinion. I don't know how, but I think that they still will make the cut among the 64 or 65 or 68. And I think the others, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, will be a part of that. And Iowa State, Kansas State, we'll see as well. I'm not trying to leave anybody out, but I do think if it does. But then you all of a sudden let people like Memphis get involved.
What did I just say earlier about Houston?
Yeah, Houston.
I said 2.5 hours ago. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're a conference that's looking at moving to 16 and you're looking around, okay, where can we have a Texas imprint? Okay, there's TCU and Baylor, but there's also Houston. That's a much bigger city and a bigger TV market. I think Baylor is hurt by some of the things that have occurred in the past, but there's other schools that have, bad scars. I mean, Baylor's are bad, but they've been able to prove over the last few years that that's something that they've turned. I mean, it's completely like if people watching online are not going to understand it, but it's just so completely different from what it was like 5 years ago. It's you can believe me or not, but it absolutely is. And there's that pull of, having a bigger market, or just maybe the name Houston as opposed to 2 schools in Texas that are private schools that maybe a lot of people don't know much about. So that's a danger that I think they need to be very aware of. There's let's say 64 teams. Yeah, you have 64 Power 5s already that could fill those spots, but there's certainly a few of those AAC type of teams that maybe are in bigger cities, bigger markets that are definitely going to be trying to get knocking on that door before you. So the politicking will be fascinating.
All right, here's from TJ. Paul, you going back and forth with TJ. All right, when we come back, we'll have Paul's top 5. We'll have, again, thanks to Mark Keaston, Emma, and Armstrong for being a part of our behind the scenes. They are, of course, a part of the backbone of what we do. And the University of Houston, it's a name, it's a city, but for some reason, they've never really been able to be a part of the eyeballs, but it is in the city of Houston. This is SicEm365 Radio.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Rediscover the thrill of driving with power and exceptional handling and control in a new 2021 Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Whether you drive the dynamic 2021 CT4 or CT5 sedan or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs, starting at only $32,900, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now to make your 2021 an exceptional year at an affordable price. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to SicEm365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Do it today by searching SicEm365 on YouTube. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Brought to you by Slapsticks Comedy Club. Open mic tonight, 9 o'clock, and stand-up and all weekend long, improv on Saturday night. I'll be there on August 6th and 7th doing stand-up and improv. So get your tickets now, slapstickscomedy.com. And please realize, YouTube commenters, that this is tongue-in-cheek. But I thought we'd have a little fun with this since we might not get to do this very often now that Texas is going to the SEC. So this is top 5 reasons that the University of Texas is the worst. Number 5.
The worst.
The disdain.
Wait a minute, we're adding musical jingles to this?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, good.
We are. Thank you, John Ralphio. Number 5, the disdain they have for the rest of their conference brethren. Because look, they really do. They have no, I get rivalries, but it really does feel like they're saying, like, look, the Big 12 should be better, and that's on all of you guys.
Yeah, basically.
It's not on them for not being better.
Yeah.
Well, it never has been, it's always been, like, when they were struggling a couple years back, finding consistency in football, I remember reading countless comments from Texas fans about just the Big 12. The Big 12 sucks. We went out of the Big 12. And I've never understood why they hated the Big 12 so much, because it was their creation. And then it was even more theirs once they basically, had the TIF that sent off, 4 other schools to other Power 5 conferences. And the Big 12 is yours. Like, if you hate it, it's your creation. I just have never understood that. It's such a strange thing to me why there was such a disdain towards the Big 12.
All right, number 4.
The worst.
Their lack of perspective, Craig, what you just said. I mean, you created this.
Yeah.
You did this. You did not let A&M go to the SEC in 1996 when they wanted, and actually in 1992 when they wanted to go, or 89, whenever to Arkansas went. They wanted to go then. Then they wanted to go again later on, and you didn't let them go then. So Twice you didn't let A&M go to the SEC. You for like everything happened here politically. This is on you. So them admitting that the SEC is better is them admitting, without admitting it, that they failed.
Yeah, I guess in a way that's absolutely true. And you know, they had every chance to make every power move and have full control. And you know what? They decided, you know, I think there was definitely in some of that discussion from the fan base about the Big 12 and sucks. I do think there was a lot of like, oh, well, we got to go to Ames and Waco and we got to go to these places and we'd rather be going to Starkville. I don't know, it's that much different, or, Atlanta or whatever, having those bigger matchups. I mean, that's definitely been a part of that argument of why they hated the Big 12. But yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of a lack of perspective, seeing as how they've basically been the one moving all the chess pieces this entire time, and now they're just clearing the board and walking away.
Has the Pac-12 lost anybody?
No.
Did the Big Ten ever lose anybody?
No.
Has the SEC lost anybody?
No.
The Big 12 is the one that loses everybody, right?
Yeah. They've now lost, 6 teams?
Colorado, Missouri, Arkansas.
Well, Arkansas wasn't in the Big 12.
Colorado, Missouri, Texas A&M, Nebraska, Oklahoma now, and Texas. And it's their conference.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Right.
It's totally
the conference that they basically built.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is the Southwest Conference was, you talk about a dumpster fire. They were a train wreck, and yet somehow was able to build the Big 12 and convince everybody what they did and what they needed was best for the conference that's falling apart again.
All right, number 3.
The worst.
The misperception of their place in college football history.
At Paul Catalina on Twitter.
Look, they have a great history. But outside of 2005 and 2008, they are
2009.
They are a good team, not
8 and 9.
Yeah. They are a good team, not a great team. And the misperception of their place in college football history kind of goes for the entire state of Texas. They're just the biggest dog in that because there's only been one national title in the state that's supposed to have all the talent since the 70s.
From 1970, they split it. In 2005, it's been all those years, now 2021. The state with so much talent, which it does, but thinks it has the most or the best. And I love Texas high school football. Has one national title since 1970.
But there's a misperception that there are other, I think a lot of Texas fans put themselves on par with Alabama, and they're about to find out for real that they're not. Alabama's the college football Vatican, guys. There's only one Vatican. That's them. They're Alabama. No one else is.
Since Saban.
Yeah. Well,
I know, but they had Paul Bear Bryant, Texas had Darrell Royal.
Yeah.
And Mac Brown. So it's not like Alabama hasn't lost the Vatican a few times. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
6th among Oklahoma, Texas are 2 among the top 6 winningest programs ever.
Yes.
They have a lot of national titles. They have Heisman Trophy winners. They have an incredible history. But overall,
But I also do look at history in college football. To me personally, since desegregation has changed a lot of things. And you have to look at it differently because there's more people that were allowed to play that were not allowed to play
since the late
before.
60s, early 70s,
yes.
right? Then they have, and okay.
And I would say too is this doesn't really mean anything in the long run, but it's just of note is that they went from a conference where there was only one other team that could proclaim to have more Heisman, which OU has I think 4 more Heisman than Texas does. They've got a couple more national titles. I don't know what the All-Americans count and all that is, but that's really the only school that could say, oh, we best you in this, or we're at least on par with you. Nobody else has a national title except for Oklahoma State in 1940, whatever.
Right.
But they don't. There's a Heisman here and there. Barry Sanders at OSU, RG3 at Baylor.
Yeah.
But now they're walking to a conference where there's a handful of schools that have as many or more titles, as many or more Heisman, as many of everything.
Here's one of the misperceptions
which is what they want to join.
We're 79 and 27 against somebody. That's the case, but not what you are right now and have been is Michigan or Nebraska or Miami.
And look, I would say
there's nothing wrong with that.
And I would say the same thing about Michigan. If we were doing
absolutely.
I would say the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you're saying we were great in the 40s. Good.
Well,
I know. I mean, I'm not saying that Michigan, but all right. Number 2,
the worst,
the entitled fan base. Oh dear. I mean, we went on this one the other day. But look, money.
This is not number 1?
No. No, number one you'll like.
You know, TJ and others, they're the ones that like even admit number two.
Yeah. But number two, listen, money doesn't buy happiness, guys.
Some people believe it does.
But money doesn't buy happiness.
No, but when they're not winning, then we earn more than anybody else.
But here's the thing, it's not their money.
I know.
That's what I don't understand. It's
not
not your money. It's the school's money. Like, why do you brag about someone else's money?
Should I brag because I shop at Amazon instead of Target because Bezos is the richest guy?
But does Ohio State have the same problem?
I'm sure they probably do. We just
Southern Cal,
that's the thing is we follow Texas closer because they're closer. I mean, but I'm sure there's Michigan State fans saying the same thing about Michigan and Ohio State and all of that. And when you've got the history they do, you're going to be a little bit entitled. I do think that, there's times where maybe their image of where they are in the pecking order is a little bit higher than what it actually is. But, I mean, they have a reason to feel that way in most cases. And, I get it to a certain extent. But that is also what is a huge turnoff for me and why I, don't always vibe with that.
Okay. All right. And number one.
The worst.
It's never their fault. It was not their fault the last time this happened. It was not their fault the first time it happened. It's somehow they're going to find a way to spin it that it's not their fault this way, just like it's not their fault that everyone else is doing horns down. You're hurting our feelings. It's your fault.
You're hurting I think fans get upset with horns down. I don't care. I don't know if a UT player gives a damn, but they'll remember it. If somebody does a horns down when they score or whatever, maybe the players remember it. I think it's the fan base that probably has more of a problem with that. That's why it's so silly the penalty is called, because you're not hurting the players. Like, if you do that in front of, just name some of the great players. They got hundreds of them, right? But, I don't think the players get offended. I think they get pissed. I think the fans are the ones who get offended. That's not fair.
And the university does.
Yeah.
But, look, they're about to go to – I'm telling you about horns down. They're about to go to a league that taunts with hand gestures badly.
Throw shoes.
I mean, exactly.
the Gator clap, right?
Yeah, and the Gators have never complained about it. It's just part of the thing. So, here's what happens when you get a horns down. Do their slogan just right back. What you do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that's going to be viewed, and I don't really care either. But I will say on it's not their fault thing. I don't believe they even probably care whether or not people think it's their fault or not. Like, if that's the perception, if I'm Texas or Oklahoma fan, I don't think I care that you're saying it's my fault. Yeah, it's clearly my fault that we're the ones making this move and doing this, and clearly have been having these discussions behind closed doors. And like I said multiple times throughout the show, I don't blame Texas or Oklahoma for making this move. I mean, I blame them for being the ones breaking it up, but I think they're perfectly fine being viewed as the ones at fault, because the payoff for it and the lack of any kind of penalty, it's all still going to be very beneficial for them. But, yeah, I mean, in the past, certainly the Big 12's a mess, and not acknowledging that they're probably a part of the reason why it is in the mess that it's in at various stages. But, yeah, I don't think they care about being at fault.
One of the things I'll say about Oklahoma is I don't know if they're capable of this 10 years ago. And I'm not trying to say they haven't. I love Oklahoma's history and tradition and watched it head on with Nebraska for all those years, right? It's one of the great rivalries that's renewed this year, and that'll be 50-17 the first game back. But I think that they've become even more, they've always been a powerhouse in football. I mean, they've had their ups and downs, but I think they're more of a national brand than ever before.
Certainly, yeah.
I think they are. I really think they are. And they've kind of positioned themselves even better than when all this went down some 10 years ago.
No, I think they were always one of the elites, but I think they've taken a different step up with this move. I think Texas has taken a different step up with this move as well. Now they're joining a lot of the other elites. And, that's going to be the fun part, is to see who kind of emerges from that and who's able to navigate those waters best. Is it the same SEC schools, or do Texas and Oklahoma throw a gigantic wrench in the upsetting the apple cart? But yeah, I mean, look, if you're a Texas or Oklahoma fan, you might think it's not the greatest idea. Maybe you were kind of a fan of the Big 12 format and all of that. I can see where some aren't on board, but ultimately the payoff and the final result versus just continuing to navigate these same waters, it's a no-brainer, guys. Like, it's a total no-brainer. People can be angry all they want, but bottom line is, if I was in Oklahoma and UT shoes and you said there's an opportunity for both of you to join together, keep your rivalry, all that, and now throw A&M Arkansas in the mix and all these other premier programs, Baylor would have done it in 2 seconds. Iowa State, Texas Tech, all the ones complaining today. So, yeah, maybe it wasn't done the right way, but I don't know what the right way would have been to say that you're leaving a conference and breaking it up. So you got to give them credit for being more ruthless, and I don't mean that as a negative, but that's why they're Oklahoma and Texas. That's why they are at the levels, because they make moves like this, and they're not afraid to, and they're not afraid what people think about it. And the other teams have hopefully learned that, all that talk about trust or all that, it's still politics at the end of the day, and it's still just all about money. So if your mind isn't geared in that direction, it better be now, because there's not going to be a bigger wake-up call.
By the way, Jackson asked, did Ross ever come on? No, he told me he was on the phone with an AD. I don't know who was a part of the conference call or what, but he's got a job to do, and his number one job is defeatsi.com, and maybe we get him tomorrow. All right.
Brent Zwerneman tomorrow, 3:15. So
Brent Zwerneman tomorrow. Okay, also.
Zwerneman. You cannot say his
name.
You have the hardest time with his name.
Zwerneman. Now, I do have a problem with that name, like I have a problem with a couple other words I cannot say. Thanks. We'll get everyone tomorrow. Grayson, I think, will join us again tomorrow as well. For Marquise, thanks to Emma. And Jack is gone today, back in about a week and a half. He's got a break coming up. Thanks to Armstrong. Great to have him back. For Paul, for Craig, I'm David Smoak. Thank you for watching, listening. Sic'em365 Radio. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has been proudly serving Texans across the state for over 60 years. Call 254-772-8090 to find an agent who will provide a free review of your auto, home, and life coverage.